Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. It is a Wednesday, September 18th, 8:47 a.m. And today is the day. Today's a very important day. Today is the day where the numbers 25 and 50 matter a lot. If it's 25, and I'm talking, of course, about rate cuts and the basis points on rate cuts, the market might like it. The market might say, hey, we're on the right trajectory. We are starting the cutting cycle. And because we're starting that cutting cycle, it is time to move forward. If it is 50, the market might say, okay, it's awesome. We're back to 50. We are starting to get rates to significantly come down. We're pricing in 125 bips. 50 is almost half of what we're pricing in. We're moving in the right direction. Those are two bullish perspectives for 25 or 50. The bearish perspectives on 25 are, well, we're cutting the rate cutting cycle, but 25 is just not enough. Unemployment, you can't really trust those numbers. I mean, can you really trust the numbers that BLS is giving you after you revise by 818,000? 25 is not going to make a dent. 25 is not really going to lower the cost of capital. If you're only getting, 5% instead of 5.5% in your money market fund, are you really going to take your money out of the money markets? All right, 25 doesn't do anything, sell the news. The bearish perspective on 50, and we've been talking about all four of these scenarios over the past couple of weeks, is that 50 is too much. Something's breaking. The Fed knows something that none of us know. It's not just the labor market, but there's other parts of the economy that are maybe a little bit under the radar that the Fed is looking at and saying, hey, these are deteriorating quickly. We need to try to stop this. And as a result, 50 is an intense way to stop it. And the market ends up reacting in a negative way. I don't know which of those four scenarios ends up playing out to be what it is. Either 25 being good or 50 being good, or 25 being bad and 50 being bad. But Jay Powell is going to make a decision today. And based on that decision, we are ultimately going to see what ends up happening. I will be live at 1:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll count down from 1:50 to 2. At 2 o'clock, we'll get the decision. And then at 2:30, we will have Jay Powell speak. So I'll be live earlier today. And at 2 o'clock, we will find out if indeed it is going to be 25 or 50. Here are the not the price targets, but the probability targets right now. By the way, at 10:15, we have launched, or Eliano has launched phase 3 of the Palantir merch store, store.palantir.com. So he's going to join me on the show at 10:15, talk about the new merch store, hoodies, windbreakers, all that good stuff is launching today. So it's going to be exciting stuff. Here it is right here. You guys can see some of the merch. Awesome stuff. So he'll be live at 10:15. I'll get to ask him some questions about kind of what the energy is like at Palantir right now, post S&P inclusion. And also he'll get to talk a little bit more about the merch launch. So at 10:15, we'll talk about that. But 63.37, the market is still pricing in 50 bips at a 63% probability over 25 bips at 37%. It's going to be an exciting day, folks. It's going to be very exciting. And we're going to see what ends up happening. Victor, Blake, Maddie, Jason, Ryan, Bill, Lena, San, thank you everybody for being here today. I'm Beneficial. What's up? Godfrey, John, Win, thank you for being here. I see you guys have noticed a little bit of the outfit today. I see you guys have noticed. Daniel says, looking great. Thank you, Daniel, for being here. I appreciate it. Nathan, Nolan, Felicia, what's up? Amit takes profit, buys leather jacket. So honestly, I bought this leather jacket 2 years ago before NVIDIA earnings, and I wore it before NVIDIA earnings. The reason I haven't worn it in 2 years is because I fucking lost the jacket, dude. So every time we do NVIDIA earnings, people are like, hey, where's your jacket? And I'm just like, I don't know where the jacket is, dude. Over the weekend, I finally found it in the depths of my closet. I was like, oh, there it is. And so today I was like, you know what? We're going to bust it out for Jay Powell's big day and see what happens. But yeah, I literally bought this. I remember I bought this, I think, first quarter 2023 when NVIDIA crushed, or second quarter, and I tweeted a screenshot of the Amazon purchase. It was like $50 after NVIDIA, I think, was up like 40% after hours or some ridiculous number. And I was like, it's NVIDIA's world. It's NVIDIA's world. Now, I should have taken that $50 and bought some NVIDIA stock, because that stock would literally, at that price, we would be up 3x, because NVIDIA was $30 at the time, or $40. But I didn't do that. So I ended up buying the jacket instead. It's always better to buy the stock. It's always better to buy the stock over the merchandise. But thank you everybody for being here today. Exciting show. We got a lot to discuss. Again, 25 or 50. 25 or 50. I did a poll on Twitter last night, so let's take a look at that. And then we got a bunch of headlines to get into for today. The poll I had on Twitter had basically 5,000 votes, 4,800. And there were 4 categories: no hike, a hike, or sorry, no cut, a hike, 50 or 20, 25. And 50% of people said 25. So the majority of people said, hey, 25 is what we think we're going to get. If I have to pick right now, I'd say it's 25. There is a part of me that's just like, dude, maybe enough people have like talked to J Pow and made it obvious that if you don't do 50, like things are going to break. But I think the safer route is 25, and I think he's going to be safe. He's a safe guy. J Pow tends not to go against the grain too much. He's done a very good job keeping the economy afloat in the stock market. I know it's not been perfect, but it's been better than you would imagine. I think better than all of us imagined. And so we're at 25. So I think 25 is ultimately what's going to happen. Let's look at the pre-market and see what we got going on right now. Futures were green last night. So we had futures that were green. I did bust out some of my poetry skills last night on Twitter when I tweeted that 'twas the night before rate cuts and all futures were green, on the idea that more green futures were not few and far between. A lot of people said, hey, Amit, you used ChatGPT to come up with that. No. Okay, I came up with that. I did have to ChatGPT what does few and far between mean, because I wanted to make sure I was using the phrase right. But I knew I heard the phrase many times before. It's like, I'm not using it wrong. So ChatGPT just confirmed to me that I was using the phraseology correct. But they did not literally come up with the poem. Okay, that was all me. So what do we got going on in the pre-markets? S&P 500 hit a all-time high yesterday, folks. 563.79. So we are green right now, a little bit on the day. Palantir down 1.45%. One thing you guys probably don't know about is our good friend Alex Karp, CEO of Palantir, sold another 4.2 million shares yesterday. So in the past 2 days, he has sold 9 million shares and cashed out on over $300 million. My take on this is that he deserves to cash out. He obviously has a ton of the company, and so this is a very small percentage of his stake. However, last time we saw an insider sell close to 10 million shares, stock had a little bit of a wall, right, in terms of moving forward. I think the situations have changed and the liquidity dynamics around Palantir are aggressively different. And what do I mean by that? I mean, there's a lot of people that's willing to buy Karp stock, even if he's selling. So I don't know if his sells have to stop the stock price from going forward. However, historically, when insiders have sold that much, you tend to see a little bit of a retracement. So we'll see what happens. Down about 1.48% in the pre-markets. Peter Thiel has not sold anything in the past couple months. And last time he sold was like 30 million shares back at the $22 range. So it's been a while since Thiel took some profits. I am curious to see if he ends up selling anytime soon, but he has not been. So we'll see kind of what happens from there. But Palantir right here, 35.90. There was a good clip on the All-In podcast yesterday. For those that haven't seen it, I'll play it on the show in a little bit. But it was someone describing how they came up with, or they helped Peter Thiel get Palantir's first commercial client. It was a really good clip, Michael Ovitz. And I think you guys will enjoy that one. But that's a little bit of an update we have on Palantir. SoFi is down about 0.25%. Rick is up 2.7%. If you know about Rick. NVIDIA up just a little bit in the morning. Robinhood 22.72. So for those that missed the market close yesterday, I did a little bit of portfolio repositioning. It gets a little complicated in terms of like the actual strategy, but basically it sums up to I took out my initial. So I took out most of my initial. I had 50 grand in a set of Jan 2025 Robinhood options. I took out 40 out of that 50 grand and I de-risked by taking out my initial. So can I still make as much as I would have made if Robinhood goes to 25 by January 2025? No, but the risk reward is very attractive because I have no idea what's going to happen over the next 4 months. And at least now with my initial capital out, it's easier to navigate the position. The reason I did this yesterday is because we got the highest pump on Robinhood since July 16th. And it made sense to take advantage of the liquidity that I was getting yesterday. I also, if you were on Technical Tuesday, the chart, I'm not as good as Jason when it comes to the charts, but when I saw the chart yesterday, I've seen this chart many times over the past couple of months, and I could tell the chart was breaking down. And Jason kind of confirmed, at this, at around 12 p.m., which is when I was exiting my initial capital from the position, the chart started to break down. So you could kind of tell Robinhood is still very weak. It needs a confirmation of a bull market. Doing really strong in terms of the stock, but the trajectory of the stock depends on if 25 or 50 is bullish or bearish, and I just don't know. And I didn't want to get greedy versus taking out my initial capital. So the position is up 3x. The position could be up potentially a lot more if we get to 25 by January. So we'll see what happens, but that was the update. on Robinhood. Sockhill says, what if you just bought Robinhood at 14 for 50,000? So that means that from 14 to 25 would be like an 80% gain, which is awesome if my target was 25. But what I did is, the options. And so there's just a much higher level of return, right? I mean, even yesterday I was up 300%, even though the stock went from 14 to 22, which is, close to a 70, 80% gain, but I was up, or so not 300%, I was up 150%. So it's just with the leverage, the options just created a lot more leverage. And that's because the strike is a little aggressive at 25, even when the stock was 14, and the expiration is in a couple months. So you've got time working against you, but given the stock has performed going from 14 to 22, it was able to, grant me the ability to at least take out my initial capital. So that's what I did on Robinhood yesterday. A little bit easier to sleep at night now that I got my initial capital out. And, as a rule of thumb, I think it always makes sense to get out the initial. There was no point of risking 40 grand, which is what I took out yesterday, just to make another, 30, 40 grand. It's like, I'd rather take out that initial. And at least if shit hits the fan, if Robinhood goes to $14, we have a recession, I don't lose the initial capital that I put in. Snowflake right here at 111. IWM down a little bit at 219. S&P again is green. Palantir again down 1.5% on the day. Amazon's up a little bit. Apple's up a little bit. 0.12. Apple was down yesterday. It was struggling. It did end the day red yesterday, or green, but it was slightly green. Affirm is down 0.44. Hims is at 1610. They are flat on the day. And CrowdStrike announced a partnership with NVIDIA the other day, and they are here at 268.72. Salesforce also came out with some announcement, and they're using NVIDIA for AI agents. I feel like NVIDIA is basically something that all these big companies are just like pulling into their press releases and being like, hey, we have NVIDIA. And Snowflake was like, we have NVIDIA. And CrowdStrike, so we have NVIDIA for cybersecurity. NVIDIA is just like that thing that you have to use to describe to everyone that you're like legit in AI. So I don't really trust when Salesforce or cybersecurity or CrowdStrike or, Snowflake is like, hey, we're using NVIDIA. I want to actually see what the products look like, because everyone's using NVIDIA. It's like, and Jensen loves doing these press releases because more and more people see NVIDIA and they're like, hey, maybe I should buy NVIDIA stock if XYZ is using them. I want to see actual results. So Dreamforce, which is the conference that Salesforce has, Mark Benioff and Jensen Huang were on stage talking together for 8 minutes. Again, I think a lot of this we have to see in the numbers. You can keep saying AI agents are going to change the world until we see Salesforce's numbers go beyond 8% growth. I don't think AI is going to be a massive tailwind for them until we see those numbers. So in the next couple quarters, I would imagine we see those numbers if it is true. And then we'll see kind of how that plays out. But that is something that came out yesterday. Is CRM up on that news? CRM is up 1%. Street's buying it. Street's buying the NVIDIA collaboration with Salesforce. There you go. Up 1.19% on the day. Are you allocating those profits to Google? So what am I doing with the money? I'm not doing anything with the money. If we get a really aggressive dip in the market, I'll probably write some puts on Hood at 17, 18, because I would love to own more Hood at that strike. Or if we get an aggressive dip on Palantir, I would write some puts on Palantir. But I'm not putting that money into any stock because I'm kind of just like leaving the money there and letting it chill out and like having that cash position in case, we get like, if Google went to 120, then I would do that, or like 130. I don't think that's going to happen. But not really establishing a position with that. Would just rather use that cash to add to a position via writing puts, collect some premium, but only if things get bad. Things are still a little, not frothy, but they're definitely up there and the premiums aren't worth it. So I kind of like that just being in cash. How do you decide expiration date for your option? So when the story behind this is I initially bought 900 of these contracts, call debit spreads, $22 calls, $25 calls sold on top of them. This is a $3 spread, so the maximum you can make is $300. I bought them for 41 cents. So 3 divided by 0.41, that's a over 6x return if Robinhood got to 25 in February when Robinhood was 14. And I picked Jan 2025 because I said, it's kind of just like, all right, a year from now, do I think the stock is $25 if it's 14 right now? And given all the momentum I saw with the gold card, yada, yada, I was like, I think that's possible. I didn't know they would be executing as strategically as they have, and they would have 40% organic growth, but that was my logic. And then August 5th, I was getting a cheaper price for that option than I got in February. I mean, you talk about August 5th being aggressive, dude. And I still bought the dip. So I bought another 120 contracts on August 5th, which is another reason I was able to do what I did yesterday, because I bought so much of the dip, increasing the position by 11% on August 5th, that now when I'm taking out my initial capital, because I had so many more contracts and it was up so much, like taking out the initial didn't really hurt the upside for what the potential of the position could look like, because I had so many contracts. I had over 1,020 contracts. So I doubled down on August 5th, but it was tough, dude. All my gains were gone. I mean, I was down on a position that I was up more than 150% on after buying the position 8 months before August 5th. So 8 months of all those gains accumulating and like appreciating and like everything's going in the right direction. Within one day, all of it's gone. And so August 5th, I know people had a tough August 5th, and this is options. This is not stock. It's not like, oh, well, eventually, Robinhood stock will be back to normal or Palantir stock. This is like, no, dude. If it doesn't get back to normal by this date, you're done. All the money's gone. Thankfully, we had a nice recovery since August 5th. And yesterday we had such a good recovery on Robinhood that I decided to take advantage of that. But August 5th was tough. And it was one of those things where you kind of just had to believe that there would be a recovery and that buying the dip there would be rewarded. So yeah, that's what we did. And it's just easier, dude. It's easier to manage the position now, not as scary. And let's see, if Robinhood hits 25, it still does very well for me, but we're going to have to see how that ultimately plays out and what goes on from there. Palantir down 1.45% right now. SoFi is down a little bit. I am really interested to see how some of these rate sensitive stocks like Upstart, et cetera, are going to respond today. So we had two lists, best rate recovery plays. This is what the chat said. We got Zillow, Enphase, TLT, Robinhood, Affirm, Epsilon, SoFi, Opendoor. All of these stocks, I think, are going to go to the upside or downside. It'll be interesting if when we look at this chart at 150, if they're all green or all red, because all of them in some way are pretty contingent on rates. And so today's going to be a very, very big day to kind of see how that ends up playing out and what happens. Are you covering the Fed meeting today? Yes, I am. It was so funny. I was on the phone with Steve this morning and he was like, dude, like we're all excited for this like meeting. Like no one in the world cares about this meeting besides a bunch of people who have some money in stocks. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's like our Super Bowl. Like this meeting is legit our Super Bowl. And this is going to be one of those meetings that if it goes the right way, things can really keep going well and maybe be making progress. If it goes wrong, or at least the market interprets it in a wrong way, things are going to suck. But I think if we get to sell the news, which I honestly think is probably going to happen on 25 or 50, just because yesterday was so good. Again, retail sales data yesterday was showing the consumer's okay. I think that dip gets bought. The question is, how aggressive is that dip? But I do think a sell the news ends up ripping back later, especially because we hit all-time highs on the S&P 500 again. But, the question is going to be when that happens and how long we would have to stay for that dip. Are you singing for halftime? Oh my God, that's hilarious. I've always wanted to be a singer. You guys know my dreams. My voice is too deep and my voice is too it's interesting. I think the problem with my voice is I've never been able to train my voice. I think if I took singing lessons, even though I have a deeper voice, I think I could have potentially had a voice that was fit for singing. But I just ended up loving yapping instead. So I became a talker instead of a singer. Doug says, last time I saw this much excitement in the finance world was the last NVIDIA earnings, which dumped. If everyone is excited, prepare for the dump. That's another reason I took profits yesterday and took out my initial capital, because I was just like, it feels like it's going to be hard to have 2 days in a row of like all this excitement. Usually you get one and then, things settle down a little bit. The problem is if things settle down today, because we're in dude, I was able to take out my initial capital in the worst 2 weeks of September historically. So I'm like, all right, if things hit a downturn today, even if it's temporary, that temporary downturn could last for the next 2 weeks, just given historically where we're at. And then I don't get access to that liquidity event for maybe a couple weeks. And by then I'll be in India. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to look at my phone exactly when I need to look at my phone, especially because the time is all messed up when I'm in India. And I kind of didn't want to be in India super, super antsy, about my portfolio. So that was kind of the logic behind the move. All right, let's listen to Citibank. This is Veronica Clark. Citibank came out a couple months ago and they said we're going to get a lot of rate cuts. They kind of turned the market bullish because most people did not expect we would get 125. They still think we're going to get 125 of basis points cuts this year. Let's see what they have to say about that.
Is poised to cut interest rates for the first time in 4 years. Our next guest was on this show 5 months ago, and we asked her about her call from January about the size and pace of rate cuts this year.
Oh, wow, I didn't even know they said that in January. Okay, so they were pretty optimistic about this in the beginning of the year.
100 basis points of cuts. We had them starting in July and going every meeting after that. And then we had a pretty dovish Fed to start this year. And we pulled that forward to June with 125. And that's been the call since early January.
Veronica Clark is an economist at Citi, and she's sticking with that call for the rate cuts totaling 125 basis points this year. That's 25 basis points today, then 50 basis points at the next two meetings, or 50 basis points today and in November, followed by a 25 basis point cut in December. No stranger to bold calls, she was one of the very early economists correctly predicting larger hikes in 2022. Veronica joins us right now. And Veronica, when you made that call back in April, we thought it sounded a little out there, but you seem to be more right than most people on the street.
we had a couple months where we sounded pretty crazy. But yeah, I think things have come around to our view, and that has been premised on the labor market weakening, which we're really seeing signs of in the data really at the end of last year, and that weakening has just accelerated. And I think the Fed has, of course, caught on to that and is increasingly worried about the employment side of their mandate.
There is a pretty large crowd on Wall Street who still say 50 basis points would not make sense at this point, that's too aggressive.
I think it would make a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of arguments for 50. We really don't know what is going to happen today. I think maybe 25 is the where we can get the most agreement among Fed officials. 25, a dovish 25. They have to be sufficiently dovish here to not scare markets that they're maybe behind the curve, tighten financial conditions more. And I do think there are 50 basis points on the table for the next coming meetings, and maybe, of course, today.
Do you think they're behind the curve?
I think there is a good argument to make that if they had that July employment data that we got just a couple days after the July meeting, they could have cut at that July meeting. And so in that sense, you maybe are a bit behind the curve here. The weakening trend of the labor market has just continued this whole year. It might be a bit too late to prevent that at this point. And certainly you want to take rates closer to neutral, and you don't want to do that a year from now. You want to do that sooner.
I mean, the labor market's still in pretty incredible shape if you look historically. It's hard to argue anything with a four handle is out of control or hugely concerning. That's full employment by historical standards.
Right. The level of the unemployment rate is certainly not necessarily concerning. It's really the change that matters. And when you do see the unemployment rate rising this much, historically, that does precede a recession. I think Fed officials are, maybe complacent is not the right word, but are feel okay about the labor market because you don't really see the big signs of layoffs yet, which is true. Although in the last couple months, we have started to see those building.
And again, that's the thing. Like, you don't see the layoffs, but if we cut 25 and then in November we start seeing aggressive layoffs, it's just like, well, why didn't we do 50? Especially if we were supposed to do 25 in July. So that's why I don't know what's going to happen, but you can't deny that Jay Powell is thinking, hey, if we were already supposed to do 25, like, let's just do 50 right now and get it over with. But he also plays it very safe.
But if you're waiting to see widespread substantial layoffs, you're already too late at that point.
The only problem is you're still watching inflation, and they are not back to their 2% target. So this is not a single mandate by any stretch. They may be focusing a little more on the labor market these days, but the real mandate that if you look back at Fed officials from years back, Alan Greenspan in particular would say, I don't worry about the labor market. I worry about inflation, and the rest takes care of itself.
Right. And we certainly are coming from a higher inflation place than we've been in many years, many decades. And I think that's maybe why, after we saw the CPI print last week, that's really what led us to change our call from a 50 today to 25 today. The Hawks might not be quite on board with 50 yet. Maybe 25 is where you can get the most compromise. But I think there are a lot of signs that inflation is finally slowing. The strength that we had in CPI last week was in the very lagged shelter component. And we do see housing weakness, new rents coming down. I think that will be slowing. And just generally a weakening labor market with wages also slowing. That is a good sign for target inflation.
We spoke with.
So again, Citigroup making a very simple argument that says we should have been cutting for a long time. We haven't cut for a long time, so now it's time to cut. And basically that's how they get to this 50 basis point argument. I think a lot of other people agree with them, even if they weren't as early as Citi was on this call. The question is going to be when that ends up happening. And I guess we'll see. Now, we'll get back to rate cuts, but I want to bring up this story for about 5 minutes because I think this one's also very important. And it's about a stock that I think a lot of us have thought, hey, maybe there's something worth in this stock. Like maybe we should take a gander at it. But unfortunately, the stock keeps giving us a reason to not take a gander at it, even though they're building devices for us to take ganders at the stock, aka look more closely at the stock. But those devices are just not that exciting. This is Snapchat, folks. They announced their latest version of its AR smart glasses for $1,200. I don't know how much more ridiculous of a company this can become. I don't know how they think this is serious. I don't know how you see the Vision Pro being a failure and the Ray-Ban glasses that are not a failure, but they're not being used in, mainstream culture. And you think this is what people are going to wear to interact with the world. Let's hear what the CEO has to say about this. But every time I think, hey, $9, maybe it's cheap, it'll go to 15. Like every time I'm reminded, I don't think Snapchat really knows what they're doing.
But first, I want to start off with your news. You just unveiled your next generation of spectacles, their augmented reality glasses, and also an operating system for developers. When will consumers be able to buy these devices, and how much are they going to cost? Who are you competing with here?
Thanks, Julia. We are so excited that you're here with us today at the Snap Partner Summit, and we're even more excited about the Snap Spectacles. The 5th generation is out today, featuring our all-new operating system that's based on natural interaction. So you just use your hands and your voice to interact with augmented reality. And what's so exciting about Spectacles is that it brings us closer to our vision for people using computing together, grounded in the real world with their friends. And that's something we've been working on for a long time now.
But so we also have 2 other giants who've been working on this, which are Apple and Meta. They've been throwing a ton of money on this. We have yet to see augmented reality go mainstream. Why does it make sense to invest so much in this at a time when your stock is down 43% year to date?
AKA when you're not profitable and haven't been profitable for 6 years, why are you investing in something that's probably going to make you more unprofitable because it's hardware, and hardware itself doesn't even have good margins?
We've also yet to see augmented reality glasses from either of those companies. So it'll be interesting to see if they follow our lead here. I think
no way, dude. No way. No way did he just say Meta and Apple. I haven't watched this video, by the way. I haven't seen this interview. I just saw the picture on Twitter last night, but I haven't watched this interview. No way did he say Meta and Apple are going to have to follow our lead. You got to give him credit right there. He did a full 180 on that question right there.
This at a time when your stock is down 43% year to date.
We've also yet to see augmented reality glasses from either of those companies. So it'll be interesting to see if they follow our lead here. I think the reason why we're so convinced that AR glasses are the path forward is because people are getting tired of screens. And we've worked really hard to try to innovate with screens, to make them better, to make them more fun to use. But at the end of the day, they're just screens. And people feel isolated by their screens. They feel like it takes them away from their friends and family. Glasses are a way to use computing that actually brings us together and keeps us, connected with the real world.
But give us a sense of the timeline here. These devices, maybe you could pull them up and show them to our viewers. I got to try them out. They're very cool, but they're still not being sold to consumers. How much will you sell them for? When can we expect these to be competing with whatever it is that maybe Meta will be introducing next week at its summit?
We've initially focused on our developer community. So there are hundreds of thousands of developers who are already using Lens Studio to build millions of lenses. And today they can go on spectacles.com, link to Lens Studio, and sign up for our developer program, which is just $99 a month. We've tried to really lower the barrier to folks getting started with this new technology. So they'll get Spectacles and Snap support to bring their imagination to life.
But explain how this fits in with your overall business. I mentioned the stock is down 43% year to date. Explain to investors what you're doing to help turn the stock around.
Well, we're really excited about the growth of the Snapchat community, which now reaches over 850 million people all over the world. And we're on pace for record annual revenue this year, driven by the engagement across the platform and the investments we've been making in our direct response advertising platform, especially for small and medium-sized customers.
But is there going to be a direct connection between these innovations that you're showcasing here and revenue? And how long will we start to see those investments boost your bottom line?
Well, the key to generating revenue is making great products that people love and want to use. And that's always been our focus. That's driven the growth of our community, the engagement with our products. And we're really excited about the way that people are going to use AR glasses. We think we're at a bit of a watershed moment. People are getting fed up with their screens and the way that they make them feel. And developers are feeling frustrated about, developing for the smartphone platform. So I think we're at a unique moment where both consumers and developers are really ready for something new.
I don't know, dude. I think so a couple things. First of all, I just got a text from a friend. I think he's watching this right now, and he shared with me this stock that's around eyewear. I heard of this company a long time ago. I did not know they were up 110% this month. So Lucy Innovative Eyewear, I think they do some stuff with AI in their glasses. I could be totally wrong on this. This is a public company. I don't have a position in this, but I just got notified of this right now. If you're talking about innovative glasses, Snapchat does have competition. And maybe it has competition by much smaller players. Obviously, this company is not as big as Snapchat, doesn't have, you know, the hundreds of millions of users they have. But this bad boy is up 110% this month. I don't know why it's up, but maybe there has been something around their innovation with glasses. So Snapchat trying to do innovation around glasses as well. His argument about people are tired of their screens, the problem, let me know in the chat if anyone knows about Lucy or has owned that stock. They did a reverse split recently. Okay, I did not know that. I did not know that. See, yeah, there's a lot of these glasses companies. I don't know how much demand they're getting, and they might be having to, you know, save themselves on the public markets. But if Lucy has to do a reverse split, I would imagine Snapchat, not that they're going to have to do a reverse split, but Snapchat does not have the demand that is needed to build out their infrastructure in a way that that gets them the sales growth that they need. His core argument about, hey, we need to get rid of the we need to get rid of our screens and people are tired of screens. I just don't think he's right about that. I just don't think he's right about that at the end of the day. I think this idea of like, hey, people are tired of the screens and they want to move on. I don't think so, dude. I think people love their screens. I think people love having a little box that they can look at, and that's not going away anytime soon. And putting something on is tough. Putting something on is kind of tough to justify a difference in what's going on. So Lucy, I'm looking at it right now. This is a very small company, $12 million market cap. They did do a reverse split. They are up still 100% in the past month and 50% in the past week. So even on that reverse split, I'm imagining Lucy, retail eyeglasses online. They design smart glasses, built-in Bluetooth audio. Seems like they're kind of incorporating ChatGPT into their glasses. Same thing that Snapchat's doing, but obviously a much smaller company. The point of bringing this up is because I think there's a lot of companies, Meta, Snapchat, Lucy, Apple, obviously with the Vision Pro, that are trying to innovate in this world of wearables. And you guys know me, I've been bearish on wearables for a very, very long time. I don't think people care about them. I don't think people are ever going to care about them. Seems like Snapchat's in the same problem. Now, notice what she said to Snapchat. She said, hey, how's this going to make money? He says, well, the good thing about making money is you build a product consumers love. Yeah, but like, A, this is a hardware product. B, what's the software margin attached to this if you're connecting with Snapchat? C, are people actually going to buy this? He doesn't have an answer to any of those questions. And the reason he doesn't have an answer to any of those questions is because I think Snapchat's doing a ton of R&D in a problem area that maybe doesn't need that much R&D because there's other big players that haven't been able to wing. So why do you think your lead is what's going to lead it? I think Evan Spiegel has wanted to be the next Mark Zuckerberg for a long time. And unfortunately, he has not been able to do it. I think Evan Spiegel has wanted to be the biggest kind of like entrepreneur. And that's why he didn't sell to Zucks when Zucks offered him $3 billion. Market cap right now of Snapchat is $15 billion. The problem is they IPO'd at $23. The stock's at $9. The IPO has been a disaster. It pumped to $80 in 2021. So if you got out at the time, that's great. But I think he wants to be like the guy. And unfortunately, it's not him that can't be the guy. It's the company that's not set up to make him the guy. Because it's like just, you know, kids use Snapchat and they don't have money to spend on ads. And so that's it. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out why, hey, that's why the business is not doing that well. And that's what's going on with Snapchat. Every time, dude, I think, because Snapchat always goes down to 8, then it runs to 15. It goes down to 9, then it runs to 17, then it comes back down. Every time I'm like, hey, maybe I should just like buy some at 9 and I get out at 15. I remember like, dude, if you're taking a risk when you're buying Snapchat, and you're taking a risk, A, with the dilution they do, B, with the massive stock-based compensation they do, C, how is Palantir getting profitable after 20 years and figuring it out? And Snapchat, which is a company that has way more users, way more brand recognition than Palantir, they can't get to profitability? Like, you can't make some adjustment. Like, it's insanity to me. It's absolute insanity. And so it's really, really tough ultimately to bet on Snapchat, even if they're trying to go after the broader glasses market. Amit, you literally wear glasses every day. If you can put them on like you do every day and have AI built into them, you would buy them. It's a fair point. The problem is to have AI built into something lightweight along with the batteries necessary to support that. There's a reason those glasses look like, I don't even know what to describe them, but it just looks like this like big thing that's hovering over you. It's because there's a lot of technology that's needed. Now you could argue, oh, well, the exponential nature of technology is that over time, this will like get cheaper and lighter and all that stuff. Okay, dude, maybe. But so far, no one's figured that out. And because no one's figured that out, it's hard to see, you know, kind of what the vision of that looks like. Maybe if we do figure it out, that'll be important. But until then, you know, we're kind of stuck in this area. So I think we're going to have to see some innovation happen on that. Eventually we will. And then maybe that'll be a good category. But until then, it's going to be a little tough to navigate it. Glasses look like an F1 track. Yeah, the glasses definitely look They look a little goofy is all I'll try to say. And the fact that they're trying to act like they're not goofy, that's the part that's like, all right, do you guys think we're dumb? Like, this kind of doesn't look the best. All right, NVIDIA coverage from William Blair. They have started an outperform coverage on good old NVIDIA. So William Blair, they have not put out their thesis on NVIDIA. Today they put it out. Let's read a little bit from this. Broadcom is targeting $12 billion in AI revenue in fiscal year 2024. We see room for continued steady growth growing into fiscal 2025 and 2026, driven by increasing custom chip demand, improved software monetization, recovery in non-AI semis, and accelerating growth in Ethernet AI network fabrics built on top of Broadcom's networking solution. Is this for Broadcom or NVIDIA? Oh no, this is for NVIDIA, but they're just talking about Broadcom as well. While we expect to see some cyclicality in demand likely starting in 2027 with the deceleration of revenue growth and margin contraction driven by increased competition, we still see a roughly 21% top-line CAGR over this 10-year period. NVIDIA's data center revenue skyrocketed by 217% in fiscal 2024 and is expected to grow by 132% in fiscal 2025, reaching over $110 billion, up from just $15 billion in fiscal 2023. Jensen Huang again was at Dreamforce yesterday. And he was talking with Mark Benioff, and this is what he had to say about how technology is moving so rapidly and why NVIDIA ultimately is the best AI stock to bet on.
When unsupervised learning came along, which allowed us to use language models to create language models which codify human prior knowledge, using that to now learn multimodal data. From that point forward, the scale was going to be exponential. For everybody here, this is an extraordinary time because in no time in history has computer technology not only moved faster than Moore's law. I mean, Moore's law, for example, over the course of a decade would be about 100x. We are probably advancing at somewhere near 100.
That was our other neighbor in Hawaii, Gordon Moore.
Oh, is that right?
Great person, great leader.
Great person. And so we're at a stage now, we're in an era now where we're moving way faster than Moore's law. And arguably easily Moore's law squared. And the reason for that, of course, is at every single layer, computers went from CPUs to GPUs. From human engineered software to machine learning software. And now this feedback loop that allows us to create new AIs, and these new AIs are helping us create new computer systems. And these new computer systems are advancing at such incredible rates, which allows us to create even better AI. That feedback, that flywheel is really flying now. And so I think the progress that you're going to have with agents over the next year or two is going to be spectacular and surprising.
So I would agree with that. And the reason why Jensen did that interview yesterday is because Salesforce and Salesforce and NVIDIA, I guess NVIDIA is Jensen, they came out with a press release yesterday basically talking about their AI agents that they're engaging with. And those AI agents, I listened to the Salesforce earnings call. Mark Benioff is like hell-bent on this idea that basically they're calling it Agent Force. They're not even calling it Salesforce anymore. So they're like, I mean, not that they're changing the name of the company, but that the internal product is called Agent Force. And the whole idea is to rapidly increase the number of agents that are in your business and have that automate a lot of the tasks that has been done before. And the idea is that'll make the world more productive and more organizations more productive and ultimately increase efficiencies. So, if you believe in that vision, I would imagine the numbers for Salesforce start to show it. But so far at 10% growth or 8% growth, the numbers are not there. Something we also see in the numbers is Jensen Huang, who has now sold $680 million of stock in the past month and a half. He sold another 120,000 shares yesterday. This is 0.3% of his position. So just to put into context, it is not his entire position, but people are saying, hey, he's taken some profits. Again, I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially if you're selling 0.3% of your position. He's been at the company for over 30 years. You would imagine you take some profits if the stock is up 54,000%. But we have seen some selling from Jensen, and maybe that stopped a little bit of the NVIDIA momentum as he's been selling 120,000 shares almost every day. Now, again, remember, the stock has split. So if you 120,000 it looks like a lot, but also they split it a couple times. Last time they split it by 10. So he has a lot of shares. Like whatever shares he had, multiply that by 10 as per the last split. And so it seems like a lot, but at the end of the day, it's still a tiny part of his overall position. And the market so far has not cared too much. I mean, they really haven't punished NVIDIA since then. NVIDIA right here, 115.62 up 0.04%, did a nice reversal from 102 last week and trying to get back to that 125 level. I want Jensen to read me a book before bed. His voice is actually very like calming when you listen to Jensen. So I agree. It's always nice to listen to Jensen talk. When buybacks, the funny thing about it is they have 50 billion in buybacks, but those buybacks, I don't know how, it's not going to make a dent in the overall float. So unless NVIDIA crashes below 100, I don't think we're going to see a lot of buybacks. Well, we'll probably see some buybacks. Palantir right here, 35.97. We've got 3 minutes until the market opens, but we would need a little bit more substantial of a decline in the market cap to see NVIDIA start executing those, and for that to even really make a difference. Palantir would be a conductor and agent force would be a section of that band, the agents being the members of that section. I don't hate that metaphor. I think that's fair. Chris says, as an early admin user of CRM back in the day, more and more Palantir reminds me of Salesforce. Few understand Salesforce until they totally got it. Then everyone was buying it. I think that's very fair with Salesforce. The one thing that's also interesting is that, remember, Salesforce's market cap is 250 billion. They do 40 billion a year in revenue. Palantir's market cap is 70 billion. So that means Palantir's market cap is 28% of Salesforce's market cap, but Palantir only has 0.5% of the revenue. Palantir doing about 2.7 billion in revenue, Salesforce doing 40 billion. So it's it's interesting, right? It's very interesting in terms of kind of how the market, the valuations are changed. Obviously, I think Palantir is trading less off of its numbers and more off of momentum. But if Palantir follows the Salesforce trajectory, given that Palantir has the level of hype around it, around AI and everything else that's part of the story that Salesforce, I think, never had. I mean, does Palantir easily surpass Salesforce's market cap, assuming the numbers catch up over the next decade as well, and it grows into the valuation because it's just one of those stocks that always stays overvalued? I don't think Salesforce has been a company that's always been quote unquote overvalued. It's not been like the Amazons and Teslas of the world. It's been a good growing software company that has rewarded shareholders. Palantir is catching up to its market cap, and it hasn't really put up the same growth, but maybe that's because it's trading on things outside of its numbers, and that could take it to new heights if the numbers end up matching what Salesforce numbers look like. So we will see. We will see what ends up happening. 2 p.m. we get the Fed meeting. I'll be live at 1:50. At 1:50, we will count down in those 10 minutes. It is going to be very, very exciting to see what Jay Powell chooses. And then from there, we will move forward. At 2:30, we will have the FOMC meeting, and we'll see how the market reacts. All right, here we go. Wednesday, September 18th. Either it'll be 25 or 50, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. Palantir opens at $36.14, down about 0.92% on the day. So we are red on the day, but we do go green from the pre-market when we were at 35.92. S&P opens green, 563. We'll see how that turns out, but we do have a green open on the S&P, even if it is a slight green open. SoFi, 813, that is green. Zillow is green. Rocket Mortgage is green. IWM, small caps are green. Occidental, that is down. Moody's we got is down. TNA is green because of IWM. Enphase at 118. Enphase having a nice week right now. It seems like rate cuts are definitely getting priced in as bullish. Enphase right here at 119. Tesla 231. That's up about 1.45% on the day. We got that 10-10 event coming up. Apple goes green. Why is Apple going green? If anyone knows anything in the chat, let me know if there's any headlines on Apple. That is interesting. Apple going green. Interesting. So people buying the dip on Apple. All right. Hims is going green, 1630. Affirm up about 1%. CrowdStrike 269. They have an event coming up today. So I would expect some momentum from that event in terms of any new announcements. TSM is up. Berkshire Hathaway is up. Alibaba is up. Celsius down just a little bit. Nvidia is green by 1/3%. Robinhood is green, 2274. Robinhood is up 0.45% on the day. Palantir 3625, trying to get back into those mid 36s. Bitcoin, by the way, has done not horrible. It's at 59,853. It is above that 57,000 level that it was at last week at this time. It touched 61 yesterday, then came back down. But staying close to 60,000 is not the worst thing in the world for Bitcoin. Snapchat right here, 950. That's up just a little bit right now. Tesla still green, 1.1%. MicroStrategy, we know Saylor's about to buy another $700 million worth of Bitcoin coming up. Rocket Lab, 729, up 1.6. Rocket Lab up 50% in the past couple of weeks. Rocket Lab's having a hell of a run. Oracle at 166. Larry Ellison, that stock up 50% year to date. Carnival Cruise up another 1.4%. So the cruise line's getting a little bit more of a bid. Verizon, 44, that's green on the day. United Airlines, that's green. ARM, 137, they got a couple upgrades last week. They're green. Oh, SMCI got an upgrade by Jefferies to $600 today. So this was if you bought the dip at 380 or whatever, it's done well since then. It's just the stock is still down aggressively from its highs based on the short report, the gross margin stuff, all that stuff. So that one is struggling a bit, but they did get an upgrade today. AMD at 150. Let's take a look at the semis. Semis are mixed. So you got Qualcomm, TSM, Marvell, ARM, Lam, Dell that are green. Dell actually almost at 120, not bad. NVIDIA and SMCI green. Then you got Intel that's down, ASML that's down, and AMD that's down. Intel really not being able to hold on to much of its gains after the AWS partnership. Good deal. Still a lot more questions than answers, but Intel right here at 2140, not being able to hold on to that momentum. Mag 7, we have pretty much all green. Amazon's red. NVIDIA just went slightly red. Microsoft's red. Microsoft new dividend yield announced yesterday by 10% and buyback they announced. Meta's basically at all-time highs. Is it? Meta? Yeah, Meta's all-time highs, 543 right now. We're at 538. And then Apple's at 218. I don't know why people are buying Apple, but people are buying Apple. And Google here is at 160. Lunar went up 40% yesterday. They got a deal. They're up another 55% today. They got a deal by NASA for about $4.5 billion. And that's why Lunar is up right now. This is a stock that mooned back in February. Then it kind of died out. Now it's back up 55%. Look, I would not chase, any company that runs 55% right now. But for those that were in it before yesterday's NASA announcement, you're doing really well because that announcement, when you inject $5 billion into a company that's only worth $1 billion, that's not the worst thing in the world. So that's why that thing is up right now. Robinhood showing nice strength here at 2273, which is, at least from Robinhood's perspective, signaling, hey, we think that the FOMC is going to be bullish and the market's going to be bullish, and 25 or 50 should be bullish regardless of what it is. So Robinhood keeping that momentum. Palantir 36.31, starting to get some green candles right here. We did hit 37 yesterday. We were not able to keep it for too long, but we did hit that 37 level. $39 is our highest ever close. S&P just went red. And so we're going to have to get to that 39 level to beat that all-time close. Did you buy NVIDIA, Mitt, because you're wearing the leather jacket? No, I did not buy NVIDIA, but I found my leather jacket today after losing it for like a year. And so we're wearing it for JPOW, and hopefully JPOW comes through. NVIDIA right here at 115 right now today. TSM put out a press release about making chips for Apple in Arizona. Really? Is that why Apple's up right now? Hold on. That's actually interesting. TSM, Apple, Arizona. Is that real news today? Yeah. Apple's A16 now being produced at TSMC, Arizona. It's a chip in their Arizona fab. It's a small but significant number. Production will ramp up in the second stage of 2025. And this is part of the CHIPS Act. Interesting. So Apple building some chips in the States. I don't know why that means the stock goes up, though. I don't know how that's like super bullish. That's like great for America. I don't know why that's great for Apple per se. I'm honestly not sure why that's amazing for Apple, but honestly, I think people are buying Apple because they're just buying the dip on Apple. It was down 3% yesterday. Apple's still a household name. People are going to step in. They're going to buy that dip. And as long as the upgrade cycle is decent, even if it's not a super cycle, you probably see some more momentum for Apple. We got some housing data, folks. So for August, this came out this morning. Housing starts in the United States of America in terms of building starts came in at 1.35 million. That's up 9% month over month. Not bad. Building permits, 1.47 million. That's up 5% month over month. Mortgage applications in in August. Sorry. I'm reading it wrong. The week of September 13th, so over the past week, are up 14%. And the 30-year fixed mortgage rate is now at 6.15%. So in August, you had housing starts and building permits both go up by 10 and 5% respectively. And then in the last week for mortgage applications, that's up 15%. Why? Because rates came down from 6.3 to 6.15%. And the expectation is that rates will come down further. And so people are probably getting ready to submit an application and potentially engage in buying a house. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. Lennar is down a little bit, down about 0.3%. That's one of the stocks we want to look at when rates get cut in regards to housing. Robinhood at 22.65, TSM at 167, Palantir at 36.45. Just went green on the day. Just went green on the day. Again, it's really hard to take Palantir down with all this liquidity. For those that missed the announcement, Karp did sell another 4.2 million shares yesterday. So over the past 2 days, he has sold $300 million of stock. I don't blame him. The stock is up a lot. His average is probably like 5 cents on those shares since 2003. So you're going to have someone who takes profits. But if the market is able to withstand an insider selling about 9 million shares in 2 days, then that means there's a ton of liquidity for people to buy those shares. Whether it's institutions, which I imagine some of them for the S&P 500, or it's retail, there are people that are ready to buy that dip. At 10:15, we're going to have someone from Palantir, Eliano. You guys probably know him. He's been on my channel a couple times. He'll be joining us to talk about the new merch launch in about 40 minutes. So he'll be on today, and we'll get his perspective on what's going on inside the company post S&P 500 as well. Intel right here just went green. QQQ up 0.01%. Enphase at 119. TNA at 43.44. Palantir again going green. Robinhood just went red at 22.62. Palantir also just went red, but slightly red. Roku's up a little bit, and then Tesla just went red. You know, Tesla, Jason was on yesterday for Technical Tuesday, and he said his main level that he wants to see Tesla hold is 235. If we can close above 235 over the next couple of days, that gives you a shot to get to 280 before 1010. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but like that's what he says the technicals look like. It's based on that higher high or higher low and then higher high on the daily close. And if that does happen, the chart at least shows via the volume shelf resistance that, hey, 280 is possible. 270 was the top this year. I think 1010 is probably going to be a sell the news, but I think if 1010 has some really interesting stuff, then ultimately it'll be bullish for Tesla long term, even if it's a sell the news in the short term. So 235, that's what we're looking at for Tesla if we can get there. What else do we have? Karp sold to buy the new merch. That's funny. That's really funny. Enphase right here at 118. Hims at 16.19. Apple, wow, up 1%. People buying the dip on Apple. They said it's time. It's time to buy the dip on Apple. Someone said, I'm back. I survived my Orgo exam. Are you talking about organic chemistry? Dude, I remember taking chemistry sophomore year of high school. I was, I mean, with the ladies, I have chemistry, but inside chemistry class, it was just like, what is this shit, dude? Like, I was just like, what is this? I was just like, it's weird, dude. My mom's a math teacher. You would think I'm more analytical. You would think like math, physics, all this stuff is like, no, I went the creative route. You tell me to talk about like a story and you give me a couple of characters. I'll come up with a story on the spot. You tell me to do it in front of 20,000 people. Sure. No problem. Give me 200,000 people. I'm not nervous. But you tell me to do like differential equations and like solve for X. And I'm like, well, X, she broke my heart. Why would I want to solve for her? See, I can think of this stuff on the spot, off the dome. That's my talent, not actually solving for the answer. So it's weird, dude. I was, my mom's math teacher, but I came out to be more on the creative side. All right, where do we have Amazon? Because Amazon's been trying to really break out from that 187 level. Damn, 185. Every time it tries to get a little momentum, it gets hit right here. Palantir now at 36.21. Salesforce dropping a little bit. S&P went green. Small caps are green as well. But Amazon really needs to see 188 to start making the run to 192. And then from 192, we can think about 200, but it is not that easy to get there. My girlfriend's in organic chemistry. Her homework looks like a different language. Dude, I was thinking about the other day. I remember like when I was in high school and I would get homework and I would have to like sit there and like actually think about math problems. I haven't done that in years. You know what's so crazy, guys? I have been having dreams of me being in school back in high school and not finishing my homework in time, or like failing a test, or like not being able to figure out the answer, or like having summer homework. Like even just yesterday, I had this dream and I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I need to like finish my homework. And I was like, motherfucker, I'm 26 years old. I don't have homework. I'm done with homework. Like homework's not a thing anymore. And it's so weird why I'm having these dreams of like, did I not hand in my homework in time when I was like in high school or something? Like, I don't know why I'm having these dreams about not handing in my homework. I'm trying to figure out what's kind of the Freudian argument for this. But it's happened multiple times, dude. It's happened multiple, like in the past couple months, it's happened 7 or 8 times. I had a dream where I have to submit my homework and I wake up and I'm like, I am not in high school. I am like, like what is going on? But yeah, organic chemistry has never been my my strong suit either. Bezos probably waiting again for 200. Yeah, I would imagine Bezos is waiting. You remember he's trying to buy the Boston Celtics. So that costs about $6 billion. If he's going to buy the Boston Celtics, then he's probably got to offload and get some liquidity. And that's probably what we're seeing is happening right now. You still have homework is just different. Yeah, I do have different homework now, but it's like it's not the same type of homework back in high school, You know, funny though, in high school, I used to do my homework like in the morning, like because I would say I'll do it at night and then I would just fall asleep. And so I'd wake up really early to do my homework. And now I wake up early to like get ready for the show. So I guess it's kind of similar from that perspective, but I don't know. It's obviously not the same given it's not the same type of pressure in terms of finishing that homework. I think we had Larry Fink on CNBC today. Hold on, let me pull him up. Or no, they're doing a flashback of Larry Fink. Let's go to this real quick and see kind of what they're talking about. I don't think he's on CNBC right now, but they're talking a little bit about him, and then we'll keep going. We'll keep going from there. Here we go.
How prehistoric we were, about how inefficient we were, and about how uncreative because we didn't have AI. Carl, Lisa Su is in a dogfight with Jensen Huang. Right now, she's behind because Jensen's got more and more. Jensen's actually pulling away. But I think she offers a unique view that there are other things that AI can do right than what we talk about now.
Well, if not McConaughey, we have Larry Fink, of course, BlackRock and Microsoft launching this $30 billion fund.
I forgot. We got to talk about this fund. Okay, let's get a little bit on this and then we'll talk about the fund. I totally forgot. That is big news from yesterday.
Finance AI infrastructure build out. We did talk to Larry Fink, I think, Jim, back in April about the promise of this whole space. Take a listen to that.
AI cannot truly happen unless there's a huge investment in infrastructure. The amount of energy that is required for AI is enormous, and the amount of power generation. We will run out of electricity if we are going to fully adapt to a full AI world. And so the need to build on, and this is all going to stimulate our economy, by the way, to build out of more AI, and which at the backside is that means building out more electricity power.
You listen closely to those words at the time.
Yeah, and I've got to make something really clear. The hyperscalers, the big companies, the tech titans, all have to build more because we just keep hearing when I'm out here, I ask everybody, was Larry Ellison right when he talked about how he has 162 data centers and he'd like to have 1,000, maybe 2,000? Everyone says, yes, that's the number. And I say, well, maybe he overbuilds, maybe everybody else overbuilds it. And the percentage of how much of electricity, by the way, the secretary of the EPA administrator told me it's going to go from 4 to 8% of the entire grid because the demand is so humongous for data centers. And David, I know you may have a pejorative view on what's about who could hijack a data center, but that is one of the prevailing themes, which is that the data center lives, it's incredibly important, and if you don't do the data center, then you may be Bing. No one.
So this is really important. BlackRock and Microsoft are launching a $30 billion AI investment fund to build out data centers and energy projects. This broke last night at around 5 p.m. The fund is going to be one of the largest ever funds launched on Wall Street. Now, I believe the fund can go up to $100 billion, but they're saying they're starting off with $30 billion. Why is this so interesting? Well, we've kind of been talking about it over the past couple of days with Oracle earnings and with the number of dollars it takes to start a new data center. Right now, I believe it's estimated to be about $3 billion minimum you need to start the financing just for the real estate around a data center project. It looks like BlackRock's getting ready to make this their next growth opportunity. And BlackRock, they took advantage of Bitcoin. Bitcoin hasn't performed as crazily as people thought. I bet the ETF for BlackRock has $20 billion in flows. I think if BlackRock were to start some type of ETF that would be kind of commoditizing or maybe even tokenizing data center real estate, I don't think that's going to happen. But Larry Fink has talked about it a lot in terms of the tokenization of other different assets. Or even if they were to just put more money into the broader space, that is something I think we all want to care about, because again, you don't have to be super smart to realize none of this AI stuff makes any sense unless we have the energy to power it. And right now, the amount of compute that it takes for Gemini or GPT or Claude, these Anthropic models to be trained, is massive. And we need that energy, and we need those data centers. And that's why it seems like this investment is happening. Now, 30 billion is interesting. Google spends 30 billion in 2 quarters on CapEx. So I doubt 30 billion is going to be actually the amount. I think it's going to be way more than 30 billion, because you just need so much money to be able to build this stuff out. S&P 500 right here at 563. Let's check on energy, XLE. That's up a little bit on the day. So I would imagine that fund's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it makes sense that they're doing it with Microsoft, because obviously Microsoft has invested heavily. Microsoft plans to invest 120 billion, I thought was the last report. They announced this 2 months ago, over the next decade. So, and then Amazon is doing another 50 billion in Virginia, if I'm not wrong, with their data centers. So there's just a lot of demand coming for this stuff. And you would imagine BlackRock wants to get involved. Oil is down on the day by 0.5%. So we're at 70 a barrel. In New Jersey, I'm now seeing prices in the 280s. So we are seeing oil start to come down. I would imagine wherever you guys live, you're seeing oil at least come down a little bit. I know on the West Coast, you guys still are dealing with $4 or $5, but we are seeing oil come down, which is great. And that is obviously good for the broader economy when input costs like oil starts to come down. And we haven't seen a massive reacceleration of that anytime, like over the past couple of weeks. So as long as that stays down, I think CPI also continues to come down going into the October month for September. Affirm's up 2%. Hims is up a little bit. Again, Apple getting some love, 269 on CrowdStrike. But it does seem like data center demand is continuing to go forward. Chris says, makes sense. Data centers will boom. Powering AI will be a real thing. What about companies like Rackspace that are legacy data centers? Will they just retail or go away? Rackspace. Okay, so I haven't heard of that one. RXT, Rackspace Technology. Market cap on this one is under $1 billion, 566. Year to date, this stock is up 32%. Wow. A penny stock up 32%. If you're telling me it's a data center stock, I would imagine they've had some more demand via data centers because of model training over the past couple of years, or at least year to date. And that's why that stock is up 32. Yeah, I don't know what happens with the legacy data center players. But it's funny. Dell, which is not like a legacy company or anything, but Dell, no one thought Dell would be up 90% year to date. And the AI server demand, which by the way, those servers go into data centers, is what has catapulted Dell, not up 90% year to date, but up 59% year to date. At one point, it was up 90% year to date when it was at $180. That's what's led Dell to come back as well. So I think AI has resurrected a lot of these companies that were thought to just be legacy old players. I mean, even IBM, dude. How much is IBM up year to date? IBM, look at this. IBM over the past 5 years is up 50%, which is not horrible, but hey, like it's not, compared to the tech stocks. Year to date, it's up 32%. If you look at the max chart, it's up 620%. It peaked at 200 in 2013. Today, it's 213. So it's been a good 10 years, 11 years of just staying from 200 to 200, or sorry, from 200 all the way down to 116, back to 200. It really hasn't moved. And it's up year to date because they have more AI data center demand as well. So I don't know. I would imagine legacy companies get a little bit of value from that demand because it's a rising tide that's going to lift hopefully all boats. We are going to be laughing when all these AI stocks start to enter Mega 7 and make it Mega 15 over the next 10 years. The thing is, I think there will be a lot of AI derivative stocks like data center stocks that get value, but I don't know if we have a Mega 15 because I think, again, the Mag 7 are trillion-dollar companies besides Tesla. Tesla should get to $1 trillion, I would argue, when FSD is out by the end of next year. And so I think to get into that club, you got to be $1 trillion. Broadcom's probably my next best guess that would get into that club. Broadcom right here at $764 billion. And if we end up creating another 5 to 10 multi-trillion-dollar companies, or at least $800 to $900 billion companies, just based on the backs of AI, yeah, it's gonna be the Dan Ives party that he's been talking about for the past 2 years. If AI actually produces 5 to 10 more trillion-dollar companies that don't have the deeply ingrained network effects that Meta, Nvidia, Amazon, and Google have, because no one's able to compete with them because of their moats. I mean, I would imagine OpenAI is one of those companies. They probably have to go public eventually. They're not going to be a $500 billion private company. So OpenAI is probably going to be up there. But maybe we see other companies as well. Maybe we see other companies. Comments on Karp selling. So I already gave my comments on that. I think he's going to take profits. He hasn't really taken profits all year. You're going to end up taking profits if your stock's up 115% year to date. However, my main comment on it is not really the Karp selling. It's like, Karp is Karp. Insiders are going to sell whenever insiders are going to sell. And by the way, if you hate that the insider is selling, look, the stock is up. You can sell as well. It's no one's stopping you from selling, right? It's not like shareholders have not done well this year. I mean, if you bought literally at 37 yesterday, okay, you're underwater. But if you bought pretty much any time this year and you don't like the Karp selling and you think that's like bearish, which I don't think it's bearish. I think it's just, insiders are going to take profits. Then, you're welcome to sell as well. But my broader take on this is that the market doesn't care. The stock is basically at 52-week highs after 9 million shares have been sold off by the CEO. So to me, it means there's just so much liquidity, and that can be a good thing because that means, hey, there's a lot of momentum. That can also be a bad thing because if there's any negative sentiment change, then people can immediately dump it. So it's one of those things where if you have a long-term trajectory, it really doesn't matter, which is, I think the majority of people in the chat. But if you're short-term swinging it, you have to kind of watch out for how the sentiment could change to the upside or the downside. Okay, let's talk about this whole pager incident because a lot of people are saying Palantir is involved in this pager incident as well. So I don't know if you guys saw what happened with the pager stuff, but this is what happened yesterday. All right. Apparently, Israeli hackers were able to get into the pagers of Hezbollah leaders yesterday, and this happened. These Hezbollah leaders obviously have been firing missiles at civilians in Israel. This is the pagers were near their testicles, and this is what happened yesterday. They're at a grocery store, and boom, the pagers exploded in their pants. Exploded in their pants. You'll see that again. Boom. That's kind of crazy. And a lot of people literally blew their nuts off. Yes, blew their nuts off. A lot of people have been saying, hey, wait a second. How did Israel get the intelligence to put that off? And one of the arguments was Palantir involved. I don't know if Palantir was involved, but we got a hell of a tweet today by Palantir CTO in the morning. Here we go. Serious question. If you lose your pecker to an exploding pager, what do you do with your 72 virgins? I mean, this was the craziest tweet I've seen in my life by the CTO of Palantir. This was the craziest tweet I have ever seen in my life. And then underneath this, he posts this meme. Sorry, ladies, the pager was in my pocket with the 72 virgins. If you don't know about the 72 virgins, that's kind of like this thing. I don't necessarily know the accuracy or not of it, but it's this idea that if you, die for your cause, you are granted with like this eternal happiness in heaven, and you have 72 virgins, all this stuff. I have never seen Sham be this unhinged on his Twitter. And I think Sham basically said this morning, I don't give a fuck. Fuck these guys. These guys have been terrorizing people for the past years, definitely over the past couple months. And I'm just going to put this shit out and I don't care what happens. This is, as Doug says in the chat, Elon Musk level trolling that usually you don't get from someone like Sham Sanker, who's much more reserved and calm. But I love it, dude. I fucking love it. I tweeted, that's my CTO. I was like, this is just amazing. This is awesome. So I think even Sham's just being like, hey, you know what this tells me about Palantir? This tells me these guys are so confident in their government business, in their defense business, and potentially in what they've been able to do to help Israel. Maybe in this scenario, again, that's not confirmed, but who knows, that they're just ready to keep executing and doing what they got to do and continue to win. So I liked it from Sham. You know me, I'm more unhinged as well. If I was running a public company, I definitely would be saying some comments that my board would not like, but it is what it is. I would, that's why I love, when Karp gets on stage and he says this stuff, because he doesn't care. Did you guys see that clip with Karp at AIPCon when he was talking about it's the size of the product that matters? Dude, I was front row. I don't know if you guys heard my laugh, but like literally I could not, like the whole crowd was just like, we cannot believe he said that. I'm gonna play that clip real quick. It was like 40 seconds, but he was just making jokes about, their products. And it was the best thing ever. Again, these guys are having fun. They're in the S&P 500. They don't care. They're executing. They're reaccelerating growth, and they're having fun.
Yeah, we don't, it's like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but we don't really have any of them. But we do have a great product. It's a great product. You don't need any of that stuff. The product makes up for it. It's the size of the product that matters.
You guys see me right there? There was me in the back. I could not believe he said that shit.
And so, any case, yeah, we don't.
It was so good, dude. It was so good. Again, some people might find that cringe. I'm like, no, man, this is a motherfucker doing it his way. He does not care. He does not care. He's having fun. Palantir going green right here on the day. And so, you know, it's interesting. We've seen Carp obviously be unhinged, especially in public, just like not caring. Sham, we haven't seen that. And today's tweet was the first time we saw Sham legit say some wild stuff and not give a fuck. And I think they're just having fun, dude. I think they're enjoying it a lot more. Carp pulling a Mitt jokes, dude. I don't know if I would have been creative enough to come up with that joke on the spot. That was a good one. It's not the size of the product that matters. Like, dude, that's a good one. Like, and again, he was saying like Palantir employees, Palantir 3650. He was saying Palantir employees are boring, they're nerds, yada yada. So that's why he said it's the size of the product and all that stuff. Like, it was just such a good moment, and the whole audience was just like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's Palantir. Yeah, it's expensive, but people are investing in the CEO. You see a guy talk like that on stage, you say, fuck it. This guy knows what he's doing, and he's a little unhinged, but he's so crazy that his mission is probably going to be what he thinks it can be. They said he wasn't going to get to the S&P 500, did that. They said the company was going to go bankrupt, didn't go bankrupt. They said the company was never going to be profitable, became profitable. Said the company was never going to scale. Now they have boot camps. Like, everything he's just proven people wrong for. When he says the company could be 10 times bigger, I don't know if you want to bet against that guy. And I think that's how the market's reacting right now as well. Snapchat 957, that's up about 1.5%. Robinhood 2250, that's down about 0.62%. S&P is red. IWM still green, but slightly green. SoFi 816, Zillow 63. And then we got Palantir right here at 3647, basically staying flat here on the day. Real question though, who still uses pagers? Yeah, that part I was also confused about. I was like, is that something they use over there? Because pagers are kind of, I don't know. Pagers are, you know, maybe that's their form of communication, but pagers are not really something modern people use, but I guess they use pagers. Elon tweeted at Mark Cuban. No way, or not Mark Cuban, Mark Cuban. Did he? Mark Cuban did come out yesterday and said he wanted to buy Twitter. Did Elon tweet something to him? Oh my God. We got to see. What did Elon tweet? What did Elon tweet? It'd be funny if Mark Cuban ended up buying Twitter, but yes, he is a little short on the cash. Elon Musk, Mark Cuban. Let's see if I can find the tweet. Mark Cuban's become a very interesting person over the past couple of months based on everything. Okay, I can't find the tweet, but some of you guys are telling me that he said, hey, you're $39 billion short. That's hilarious, dude. You know what's so funny about Mark Cuban? I was talking to a friend about this. Mark Cuban is one of the, I hate the word lucky because I know people work very hard, but let's just say he was in the right place in the right time. If you don't know the story about how Mark Cuban made his first $5 billion, he made a company called, I think, audio.net or something, or broadcast.com. And it was streaming sports games over the internet. So call it radio for the internet for sports. This was during the dot-com bubble. Yahoo said, hey, streaming audio over the internet, revolutionary. Can we give you $5 billion for it? And he got paid $5 billion in Yahoo stock. And right after his lockup period was expired, he sold that shit so quick. 8 months later, Yahoo's down 80%. He has $5 billion of cash and he's set for life. And he made a company that, you know, streaming audio over the internet, I think a lot of people would argue is not the most revolutionary company. So a lot of people, you know, it's interesting because he made so much money off of something that really didn't change the world. But now he's so influential because obviously when you have $5 billion, you would really have to mess it up to lose $5 billion. And he's made very good investments, you know, Shark Tank, all that stuff. So he's diversified very well and he's accentuated his wealth. But when you think about his thoughts on business, I think there are some people that say, well, what has the guy really done other than being in the right place at the right time? Now, I'm not one of the people that say that. I don't want to downplay anyone's accomplishments. Who am I to say that? I don't have, you know, I didn't sell a company for $5 billion. But that is some of the chatter you have going on. And I bring this up to say Elon frickin' Musk, that is building SpaceX and Tesla, I think looks at Mark Cuban, who's been one of his biggest critics over the past 8 months, and is just like, are you serious? Like, are you really criticizing me? Do you know who I am? You know? And so I think that's kind of the tension between both of those two players right now. And that's how they're kind of going. Where is he influential? Dude, on Twitter, he has what, 8 million followers or something? I mean, he has an audience. And because he's been anti-Elon over the past couple of months, whether you like that or not, he's developed 9 million followers. He's developed more of an audience based on kind of leaning into the Elon Musk's crazy right-wing psychopath type of narrative, which I think he does believe, given his tweets. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to kind of see how they play out based on this election. Obviously, one of them is on the side for Kamala. The other one is on the side of Trump. And in November, in about 2 months, we'll find out which side wins. Dude, Sham Sanker is hilarious, bro. That tweet is crazy. That tweet is absolutely crazy. It is so crazy. All right, let's go to CNBC. Let's see what updates we got. We got to get some more updates on the Fed and what do we expect from Jay Powell today. 25 or 50. Going to be a very important day to kind of see how this plays out. Let's get some updates and then we'll keep going from there.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to another hour of Squawk on the Street. I'm heard of 1%, but not a huge amount of movement ahead of the big Fed decision and news conference and dot plot. Take a look at treasuries in advance of that Fed meeting, and we can see that there's a little bit of selling. Yields pointing a little firmer today, 3.685. Two-year yield is going to be the focus because that's the short-term yield rate-sensitive one.
By the way, in 12 minutes, we'll have Eliano on to talk about the new Palantir merch. So in about 12 minutes, we'll have him on the show and we'll get his perspectives.
3.644. We are 30 minutes here into the trading session. Here are three big movers we're watching. VF Corp gets upgraded to overweight at Barclays, saying they believe, quote, the risk reward is at attractive levels right now. The stock's up 4%. General Mills trying to recover from earlier losses. Quarterly profit at the cereal maker falling on weaker sales, particularly in North America. Higher costs weighing on margins. We'll tell you what they said about the consumer in just a moment. And then shares of SiriusXM moving higher. Guggenheim upgrades the stock to buy from neutral, $30 price target. Guggenheim citing the company's, quote, robust free cash flow outlook, as well as capital returns and stabilizing subscriber picture. But guys, as far as the big topic of the day, it's the Federal Reserve. And I just want to lay out where we stand. It's an unusual Fed meeting. In one sense, it's the end of an era, the hiking era, beginning of rate cuts. We know that. The Fed has telegraphed that. But there still is this uncertainty about what the move today is going to look like. Is it going to be a 25 basis point cut, a traditional one, or a double 50 basis point cut? So here's where we stand. The odds right now are that they go 50, just barely. There's about a 65% probability that they do a 50 basis point or double cut. It's not that certain. And then if you look at there's Wall Street kind of split over it. JP Morgan, UBS, Wells Fargo, all in the 50 camp, but most of the other banks are in the 25 camp. And then, you know, the question is not just what they do today. It's how they characterize it, first of all, in the statement, and then maybe more importantly, from the news conference with Fed Chair Powell. But then the dot plot is going to be really important, too, because this is where the Fed puts out its forecast for inflation, for unemployment, and for where rates go. And this is the last dot plot. We get them every 3 months. We got it in June. This is the last one of the year. So it really will give a good picture about what they plan to do in the next few meetings. And it will either vindicate the market on this idea that we're going to get 100 before year end. So that would be if they go 25 today, we'll get at least a 50 somewhere later down the road, or 50 today and then 225s. And that's what's really important. We're also going to get a look at what they forecast for the next year. They go all the way out through 2027, which is pretty much irrelevant, but it will help us determine the direction of travel. Right now, they're the probabilities that we're going to get a double today, a double in December, and a single in November. What is it based on? Well, first of all, a lot of jawboning from other Fed officials who are saying Fed's behind the curve. They need to go 50. They need to catch up. They want to prevent a recession. They want to prevent unwelcome further stress in the labor market. As Chair Powell said himself, he was very dovish at Jackson Hole. Or the 25, which is that things are not all that bad. And that's kind of what we've been talking about on the desk. You know, we always like to give you a snapshot of where rates are as far as how they impact all of us, consumers, ordinary folks, from when the Fed started hiking rates to where we are right now. 30-year mortgage, which had already run up a bit in anticipation of the first rate cut, 4.29 now, 6.1. So it's come down a lot in anticipation of this
had a
easing.
7 handle for quite a while.
There's the home equity loan, obviously higher credit card.
And again, all this is coming down, home equity loans, 30-year fixed mortgage, all this stuff based on the idea that we're going to get rate cuts. I wonder if these rates go up, like the fixed mortgage, et cetera, if we only get 25 and not 50.
Loans rates still very high, almost 21%. Used vehicles. I mean, this is how it filters through to the real economy. And especially if you're a small business, David, trying to access capital, they don't have access to the big financing, the market where we see all this financing going on. So there's definitely a case for easing to relieve some of the stress in small business and consumers that we're seeing in the economy. And that's how it filters through in rates like that. The question is, how do they get started?
Yeah, but also, let's not forget, 3 months is not a particularly long period of time. You're talking about a 125 basis point cut, basically, in a 3-month period.
Right.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. But the argument is,
I mean, forget about getting started. That's going to be here before you know it.
And the market is anticipating it already.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be already priced into the market at this point. If you look at where we are and why people are itching for cuts, first of all, look at PCE. This is what the Fed targets, right? Inflation. This has been the problem. Their preferred inflation measure is PCE, and it's come back down to 2.5%. Is it at 2%? That's expenditures. That's a kind of a different thing. But is it at 2%, which is the target? No, but it's at 2.5%, and it's come all the way back down. CPI as well. People look at the consumer price index for inflation, and it's come back. It was 9% at the peak, right? And now it's all the way back down into the 2 to 3% range. So there's been a ton of progress. And the other part of their mandate is unemployment, Carl, and that has come up. Now, it's not sharply spiking or anything like that, but it's from the cycle low. And Fed wants to get ahead of it.
Yeah. Lou Breen today points out there are going to be 2 more job prints before the Fed meets again. And Powell did say the committee does not seek or welcome further cooling in the labor market. And in Lou's words, if he didn't mean it, he shouldn't or wouldn't have said it.
I think he means it. The question is, how does he feel that they can best achieve that? Around the table, there's the unemployment rate. Again, not super high, the spike during COVID, but we've come off the lows, which is kind of hard to see on a monthly basis there. Look, there will be people around the table. Michelle Bowman, I'm thinking of, who's a Fed governor, gets a vote. Probably not in the 50 basis point cut camp. She's been hawking.
Futures just went 39% for 25. It was 35% an hour ago. Now it's almost 60-40, right? It's 61-39, but we just got a little bit more of a probability rating for 25 instead of 50.
Along the whole way, warning about inflation. Think probably has come around to easing, but I do wonder if they go 50, if they'll get some dissents, which would be abnormal for this Fed. We also have a new voting member from Goldman Sachs, who's now the head of Cleveland Fed, Beth Comack. So there are dynamics around that table as well as to how they feel they can best get in line with the market and also get ahead of unemployment. Look, Atlanta Fed GDP now continues to rise, actually, in light of what we got yesterday on retail sales. Look what's happened. There's the blue line. So it's gone up to 3%. It's accelerating on GDP. Do we have to cut 50? Do we have to do a double at a time where the GDP is accelerating? Yeah, they don't target GDP, but that is something to watch.
Doesn't happen often, I wouldn't think.
No, it's
accelerating GDP.
Dude, 159 today is going to be important. The numbers drop at 2 p.m. I'll be live at 1:50. We'll see what the heck happens. 2:30, Powell speaks. Market's flat right now. Palantir's a little green. Everything else is kind of flat. VIX is up right now. I think market's on edge. It's not super volatile right now. VIX is up 7.5%. So you definitely have the market saying we're going to wait until we get a decision. Where's the S&P? Are we basically flat? Yeah, we're basically flat. I mean, I think the market's just like, hey, until we know, we're not going to do anything. I would love for this to be a flat day. Like I would love, nothing would make me happier than Jay Powell saying 25 or 50 and the market's like, all right, whatever. And we just stay at these levels. because we just like limit the volatility to the upside or the downside. I think it just like staying at these levels to end the month would be really exciting, would be strong, and we can make our way towards higher numbers after Q3 earnings. But I don't know. It's kind of weird because now everyone's expecting a sell-off. So I'm kind of thinking, does the opposite happen? Do we not get a sell-off? Do we kind of stay flat? I think a rip on these numbers, like up 2% or so, I don't know, 50, because you're going to have some part of the market that is not going to trust 50. Like if we do 50, you're going to have one side of the market that says, yes, it's time. We're cutting rates. Let's do this. And then the other side of the market that's going to be like, why are we doing 50 when retail sales just beat by 0.3% yesterday? Like, what's the logic here? Is there something else we don't know about that's really bad? And I think that bifurcation of both parties is going to lead to maybe a flat-ish day, maybe a sell-off, but it's going to be hard to see a massive run-up just by the bulls on the idea of 50. Also, how are the algos gonna act? Like, what do the algos even like? Do the algos like 25? Do they like 50? I think the algos are just as confused as the humans right now, dude. I don't think they like it's pretty like in July, if we got a cut, I think the algos would have been super happy because a cut was like just not priced in for July. Now a cut is priced in, but I don't know if the algos think that 25 or 50 is good or bad. I think they're gonna have to figure it out on the spot as well. Do a poll. Are we expecting a sell-off or run-up? Okay, so let's do that final poll. We'll do one official poll at 150 and see what you guys say. But this is not 25 or 50 on the poll. This is run-off, run-up, or sell-off on FOMC. Let's see what you guys think. I kind of think it's a sell-off, but then again, a lot of people are starting to think it's sell-off, so maybe that's too consensus. It does make sense, though, that we're down from where we were yesterday. Like yesterday, that's why I took out my initial capital yesterday. I was like, no, this is like retail sales data should not be putting us at an all-time high on the S&P. Like that's bullish, but that's not like right before one of the biggest days of the year. That's a little aggressive unless the market knows what the Fed's going to do and they're very happy with that decision. But I don't know if the market actually knows that or if they're just speculating on this. Why is Amit still wearing his pajamas? I am not wearing my pajamas, even though it would be kind of cool if I sleep at night in a leather jacket. That would be actually pretty cool, to be honest. I think there's a joke in there somewhere that I can make. Crossroads says, 100% agree with you, Amit. Should sell off, so probably won't. Yeah. I mean, like now a lot of people are thinking that we get a bit of a sell-off. 2 o'clock is the rate cut announcement. 2 o'clock. So we'll be live at 2 o'clock. Also, I'm wearing some of my Palantir merch right here under this one. And in about 1 minute, we'll have Eliano join to tell us more about the Palantir merch. Amit, what is your take on people who say you can't trust government numbers? That's how a guy at my work says. He says the Fed should cut in a year and a half because you can't trust the numbers. Well, regardless if you can't trust the numbers, you can't cut in a year and a half because we know unemployment is slowing down. And because the revision is to the downside, not to the upside, if you don't trust the numbers, that's fine. But there's no way anyone can say the labor market is not cooling. And so whether it's 25 or 50, I think all the Fed presidents have made a point, at least the public ones like Goolsbee and Bostic, to say we need to focus on maximum employment. And so we're going to get a cut. It's just, is it 25 or is it 50? Like it is. That's why you got 50 Cent on the thumbnail today. Like, is it going to be, are we going to get rich or die trying, with 50, or are we going to play it safe with 25? By the way, speaking of 50 Cent, that dude has turned from a rapper into a media mogul and entrepreneur extraordinaire. Like if you followed his career, the equity stakes in Vitamin Water, the show with Power, he's a phenomenal entrepreneur. He has really transformed what the average rapper does throughout their career. Because a lot of times it's just music and touring, but he's like really built businesses. So 50 Cent is really an example of just like using that fame and then turning it into monetizable businesses. Also, he's a great rapper. I think 50 Cent's up there. I love 50 Cent. All right, here we go, folks. I've got someone joining the show today. You guys know him. I know him very well. He is the reason I said I wasn't going to give him a sappy intro, but I'm going to give a sappy intro. He was the reason I was able to meet Dr. Alex Karp in DC, and he took the picture of Karp holding my hair. That started the ability for me to continue meeting Dr. Karp, and that obviously means a lot to me because this is a company I've been covering for 3 years. The man, the myth, the legend, the guy I call a French model. We got Eliano. Hello.
Hey, what's up, man?
How are you doing?
I'm great. Starting the morning off from home, so it's a little out of my element, but how are you doing? I see you got the brown leather jacket on top of the one of one. So that was a sweatshirt that I was sent as a sample. They're like, pick which color you want, which shade, and I was like, there's only one person weird enough to wear this, and that's Amit. And I was like, as soon as I saw it, people were like, can I get that? I was like, no. I know exactly where this is going. So I appreciate you wearing it. How you doing?
I'm doing good. And there's also only one person weird enough to put a leather jacket on top of it and be like, oh, this is like swaggy out. I remember you coming on the show this morning and I was like, what do I wear? I was like, I got to wear the merch and I got to wear the leather jacket on top of it. So
I can't pull off a leather jacket, but it works for you.
Well, you couldn't do it because your chest hair would be unexposed. And that's what you like showing off. So.
Well, if I just wore the leather jacket with nothing underneath, right.
That would be fun.
So what's going on?
So we have this merch drop and I want to talk about it. But before we get into it, you've been at the company for a while. You've seen the company when it was down in the dumps, when they were trying to figure out sales, and now they're here in the S&P 500. I just want to ask you, what does that mean to you? And kind of what is the culture like inside of Palantir right now?
Yeah, I mean, for starters, so I've been at the company for 2.5 years. It'll be 3 in January. In terms of like the company, being in the dumps or whatever, like just for like everyone's, essay, like it's always been business as usual. The confidence has always been there in the product. Speaking for myself, I've always had a really high level of confidence in leadership and sort of their vision for the company and sort of how it would play a role in geopolitics and sort of the future of the West. And so I've always felt very confident, regardless of what the stock price is. So that's for starters. I think I've been in a unique position in DC to sort of see how the company has really grown in terms of its brand, within the nation's capital region.
Well, that's the thing. You're in Palantir has a big government business. You're in DC where all that stuff goes down.
Yeah. So, when I first started at Palantir, I was kind of thrown in the middle of the ocean because I'm a non-coding entity. So there wasn't hey, this is what you do. Like you go on a team, you start doing this and you work with a customer and then you figure it out. Like I didn't have that experience. For me, it was like, hey, get to know people, figure out what's going on. And for me, like coming from a public policy nonprofit background, I was like, okay, I see a company here that's challenged with the ability to connect with some of the bigger institutions in DC, like think tanks, trade organizations. So I basically went out and evangelized Palantir. And so that's what I like to call my day job, my government affairs job, is that I work with think tanks and I work with major organizations, and I manage some of our large scale public policy partnerships. And it's been really amazing to see their familiarity with Palantir from when I started to now, and how they're talking more about software and seeing Palantir as sort of the leader. And so I think I hear a lot of noise on the outside, but from the very, very beginning, I've seen the story play out, and I know that the results and the things that people on the outside care about will follow, because it's hard for outside customers to kind of like trust Palantir unless they know what it is. And for me, it was like educating the institutions that educate the people. And so that's what I've really enjoyed doing. So now this new project that I'm doing right now, which is sort of engaging the retail community, it's sort of the same thing. I'm just looking for different mediums to tell the story. And that means working with folks like you to make sure that you've got the information and the context that you need, like giving you exposure to the SCSB AI Expo, giving you exposure, Sasha and Chad inviting you to AIPCon, like that just helps you educate the broader community. So, I'm just in the business of amplifying the Palantir story.
One quick thing, Eliano, can you just hold the wire on the mic because it's rubbing against your beard pretty hard? So, yeah, there you go.
Pause.
Okay. Someone says right here, Eliano is also quite responsive to your questions on Twitter. Just a good dude. Yeah, I mean, a lot of you guys, his Twitter is in the description right now. You can tweet at him and he will try to respond.
Okay. That should be
perfect.
better.
Perfect. Much better. A lot better. Okay.
Cool.
So it's picking up on what you just said right there. You saw the company in 2021 when it was trying to figure things out. Now, one of the top 500 companies in the world. One of the things you mentioned is you've seen the brand awareness, particularly in DC, of how they think of Palantir, and that's largely due to the strategic engagement and the think tanks and all that stuff. Here's a question: you're one of the employees out of like the 4,000 they have. From your perspective, What does it take for a company to get into the S&P 500?
I mean,
what level of execution needs to be there in the culture to be one of the top 500 companies in the world?
It's hard to answer that question, at least for me, because I've only been at Palantir. That's the only company I've ever worked for. Before that, I was working in the nonprofit space. But I can say that just at a macro level, it's an unbreakable focus on execution and on winning and doing things your way and not really conforming to not conforming to what the street says you should be doing or how you should be pricing things. Or, I think leadership's obsession with just delivering value to the customers and the belief that if you deliver value, that the results would follow. I think that's really what it comes down to. Like, you're not going to be a software company like Palantir that gets into the S&P 500 by doing what other companies before you have done, right? Like the goal, like, and I think just broadly speaking, I don't know if you could pull it up, but the best description and comment on sort of, what the S&P 500 means to the company. I think Ted Mabry had a really awesome tweet. I think you probably saw it about just sort of it signals to our customers and the people around in our universe that we're here to stay. And I think that was really, really powerful. And I would say that I would recommend folks read that. That would be my answer. Just look at what Ted said.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to ask you is because at the end of the day, like, Palantir doesn't get into the S&P 500 without every employee being aligned, especially because it's a small company. Like 4,000 people is not a lot of people. And so all of you guys kind of have to be geared and focused on that mission to execute. And it seems like that's what's happened, dude. And I asked a couple of employees at AIPCon the same question, and they were just like, we just keep working and we're just going to keep working. Kind of what you said. Kept working, going to keep working, and hopefully the results keep showing up for themselves.
I'm not trying to feed into any stereotypes here, but I'm going to be drinking this protein shake. And so I'm going to preempt you making some sort of meathead comment, but this is my breakfast and I had a good workout this morning. So please continue.
Okay. Well, while Eliano sips on the protein, we got some new merch, folks. Palantir merch phase 3 is out. Bunch of new items. We'll be doing a little giveaway in a bit, so stay tuned for that. But we got hoodies that are out. We got windbreakers. We got some new caps, software that works. What does phase 3 mean to you, and kind of what is the evolution of this merch store turned into?
Yeah, phase 3 is pretty exciting because the hoodie. I think the hoodie is the one request that I've gotten internally and externally. And Babin was on the Spaces recently, and he was like, "We need where's the hoodie?" And I was like, "I got you, man. It's already coming." It's a really good quality hoodie. I actually I'm wearing the crew neck that came out in phase 2, which we will be restocking next week. But the hoodie, of all the things that I've worn, the hoodie just fits the best. It just feels good and it's just clean. And I can just see our folks like putting the hoodie on, putting their headphones, and then putting the hood on top and then just coding. Like, that's like what I envision. It's like the ultimate dev look with the hoodie. So the hoodie's great. The windbreaker is awesome. I wear it when I travel because I just put my passport in the patch in the little pocket in the front there. Right. You just put your passport, you put your headphones, you put your keys, whatever. It's just great. And it's like super handy. So I feel like a little kangaroo hopping around. The software that works at, there's actually a funny story about this. So I got the idea for the software that works at, I mean, I had the description. Obviously it's a testament to the fact that, we deliver software that works. The idea for it was actually at R&DF 2023. So Dr. Karp was on the breakfast panel, and I can send you the clip, but he was just like, let's just call it AI software that works, right? Like, let's just call it that. And then later in the day, Secretary of the Air Force, Frank Kendall, he goes, I really love what Alex Karp of Palantir said. AI is software that works. And I was just like, that sounds pretty catchy. And so I played around. I kind of proposed the idea to Philip. No, that's not it. That's 2021. But we'll come back to that one later. But I told Philip, the designer who's been awesome in working in the store, and also the guy that I if I could pick anyone in the company to go out with, it'd be Philip. So shout out Philip. I was like, yeah, man, like, what can we do here? And he's like, well, let's just put the brackets there. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, yes. And so that's it. That's how the hat came about. And, I think my intent for this is that I want to just kind of like hear back from the community. It's like, when you wear this hat, like, are people asking what it means? And then when they do, like, what are you going to say? Because to me, this is like a conversation hat.
I think so as well. That's the first thing that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, oh, like someone like, reads the text and you got software that works. They're like, what are you talking about? What is
right.
this?
Right. But, I think software that works is like, Chad has talked about this. Dr. Karp's talked about this. It's not just a widget, it's something that actually delivers value. And again, not to hype up Ted again, but he had a really awesome tweet in response to Gordon Johnson, where he talked about how we measure the efficacy and the quality of sort of the deployment by like how closely it is aligned with the actual overall company's mission. Like that to me, like Ted is a poet when it comes to that stuff. That to me is like when you want to break down what software that works means, it's like that. It just works. It gets the job done. It's not a widget that you have to then go to another widget. It just works, and you can focus on your mission as an operator or a decision maker and not really focus on these different widgets that are just slowing you down.
Okay, we'll go back to the merch in a second. But speaking of Gordon Johnson, I mean, you were in the retail community. You know this guy. You know his relationship with Tesla. What is your broader perspective on the media caring about Palantir? Karp was on Bill Maher, New York Times, all this stuff, but also independent media kind of tearing down Palantir, not being happy that they got into the S&P 500. How do you reconcile the bull and the bear side of the media attention?
I actually like. First of all, I think the short answer is like I don't care. Like it's like the same.
We do not care.
We do not care. I would say that's like the short answer. The long answer is if people, and I was talking to Arnie about this, right? And if people aren't hating on you, then you're not really pushing the boundaries and you're not really doing something right. And I think that's not just as a company, that could just be as people, as you think about, the workplace and stuff like that. Like there's always going to be people that are anti-Palantir. And I don't expect that to go away, especially as the company starts to push boundaries. And look, Dr. Karp, Sham, Ted, the leaders of this company, they're not conventional people. And so, people.
We saw with Sham's tweet today.
That was really fun. That was really funny. I saw that in the gym and had a nice little chuckle. But, Amit, I think also, for years, people like, Mr. Johnson and others, they can only judge and sort of analyze Palantir based on what they know. Right. And so I think that the normal software company or the typical software company or the right software company should look like this, and this. They should have this, and this, and they should be structured like this, and this. And here comes Palantir with a crazy-haired CEO that curses on earnings calls, that wears white T-shirts that are beautiful and jeans and just does whatever he wants, says crazy things like taking Coke away from the short sellers on CNBC, like pure electricity, right? And how do you expect these people to react? Like they want everyone to conform to their world. And if it's not, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. And I think that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I'm noticing it as well. Obviously, I've been covering the company for the past couple of years. You've been working at the company. There was a certain perception back in 2021. Company has really executed. A lot of people are upset because, again, they're not the typical software company. They don't deserve, in the eyes of some people, this type of prestige and brand awareness, but they're getting it because they're executing and they're doing it their way. And this is what Karp talked about in that S&P 500 video. So that's my next question. When he said the rebels won and we did it our way, I mean, how did that resonate with you when you watched that?
I mean, I think it just really feels good. Like Dr. Karp, like he's human. He's just like one of us. Like he's out there grinding, like trying to build this company. And again, we did it our way, and that feels really good. Like it feels really good to be to make it to the S&P 500. It feels really good when you didn't have to sell yourself out to do it. I mean, that feels really good. I mean, look, Amit, you've been on the stream for years. You've gotten so much hate and doubt, people in your comments for years. I mean, you tell me, like, how did it make you feel?
Well, dude, I didn't know what an odometer was the other day. And most of the chat was like, dude, we love you, but how do you not know what an odometer? So I experienced it yesterday. But no, it's just like in terms of the actual real people that have been like aggressively and mean and stuff, again, it's the same thing. They're paying attention to you. And so whether they love you or hate you, if they're paying attention, that's what matters. And you just hope that more love than hate. And then when you look at the people that hate, you say, is it irrational or is it not? And when I look at like a Gordon Johnson just saying, oh, Karp's crazy hair on Bill Maher makes him a weird CEO. I'm like, okay, so that's irrational because you're judging the guy off his hair versus,
right. But most of the hate that comes is sort of irrational. Like Gerber, whatever, he was like, I remember there was a video that really upset me where he was like, this guy looks like the devil.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that to me, first of all, like, I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole here, but, for him to say that Alex Karp looks like the devil, right? That's not a serious take. Like, how is that? You know what I mean? Like, you don't take these people seriously. So I don't really subscribe to their take on anything.
Right. What is so we're about to do the giveaway in a second, but what is next for the merch store? So what do we expect from phase 4? What can we expect?
So the phase 4 is probably going to be the last drop of the year. I'm aiming for early November. And so we're going to restock the sweatshirts and the stealth bundle and the shirts a week from today. So stay tuned on Twitter for more details. But phase 4 is going to be really special. And the reason why is you see the hat that I'm wearing. It's a made in America navy digicamo hat. And then I think I posted a photo actually. I can get up and grab it in a second. I'm looking at it across the room. I should have brought it with me, but it's basically the Army version. So for those watching, Palantir is going to be one of the top sponsors of the 2024 Army Navy game, which takes place in DC. Well, not really DC, at Landover, Maryland, but we'll say DC. And we're going to be up. That's the hat. And so we're going to be doing a limited edition drop where basically you have the Army, you have the Navy. I think we're going to be selling only 250 of each. And when they're gone, they're gone. And all the proceeds will go to a charity. I'm going to release the name of that charity probably next week, but it's a really awesome veterans group. And so all the proceeds are going to go to the charity. And I believe we will probably match the funds from that. And then there's also going to be other stuff that we're doing. So I'm really excited about that. And then we're also going to be doing beanies, hopefully, in 3 colors. And then a couple other things. I'm working on some like special colored crew necks and stuff. And I think we'll probably also do is, we might price them up a little bit higher and then so that we can donate the proceeds to charity. And so that's going to be phase 4. There's other things that I'm working that are more long-term that could happen before the end of the year. But what I'm coming to terms with is that this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
I think when I first started this, I was just like, hey, we'll get some hats out and shirts out. But then I started seeing sort of the demand.
People love this.
Yeah.
There's the few haters that say it's cringe. The 99% of people that have been with Palantir for years, we love wearing this merch and representing this brand.
Yeah. I mean, people wear clothes from all the different types of companies all the time. It's like, you want to rock merch that has a nice, clean logo on it. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. I didn't want to blow up, the Palantir. I know I talked about this last time I was on the stream, but I didn't want to like make it really crazy graphic Ed Hardy like, right? We want to go with subtle, more athleisure in the know, so that people could wear this every day and feel, like they could wear it no matter where they're going. And so I think this might be, I think this is somewhat of we're in chapter 1 of a long book here of what this could become.
Yeah. Also, I mean, kind of think of this merch as an investment because imagine Palantir just becomes like one of the most important companies on the planet, valuable, trillion, whatever it becomes. Like this is original stuff. I mean, imagine you had merch from like 2007, of Palantir and where it is today. So I just think like, it's like if someone who just cares about the company, it's like collector edition items that might not be around in 20 years.
I love what Dougie said. Jerry Jones could wear a Cowboys hat because he owns, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, truthfully, the people that get really upset about the merch store, I think they have bigger issues that they need to kind of like address in their lives.
I think they have some insecurity.
Yeah. I mean, just like if people love a company, not just any company, a company that actually stands for meritocracy, for Western values, for giving the warfighter, American warfighter and our allies the best software and a strategic advantage over our adversaries to deter and if God forbid win, if people want to wear, merch that sort of symbolizes that, then let them. The people that get really upset about it, it's really odd to me.
Yeah.
But what can you do?
clothing is just an expression of values at the end of the day. And these are values that I care about. This is like when people say, oh, why are you saying we? When you're talking about like, oh, guys, we're up 5% today. It's not we is up 5%. Palantir. No, motherfucker, I'm invested. I'm we. I'm part of the company. We are up 5% today. We're, it's just part of that community. And I think that's why that community has grown to be so special. Quick question before the giveaway about the cost, because obviously people are gonna have some questions here. $100 for a hoodie, kind of expensive. How do you justify that?
Includes shipping, made in the USA, really good quality. Yeah. And again, like I've said this before, we're not making any money off the store.
Yeah, this is not going to show up in the earnings for Palantir, revenue from merch.
Nope. So. There will be no, I assure you, there will be no revenue from merch in any sort of future earnings, at least in the near term. But we're doing everything small batch. We're not buying like 10,000 hoodies. We're doing everything in sort of like several hundred here and there.
So you don't have economies of scale as well, because small batches obviously are more expensive.
Not yet.
Yeah.
You see that? You see that wink?
I saw the wink. All right, let's give away something to my audience. Thank you for being here, Eliano. So this is how it's going to work. He's going to ask.
Well, first of all, this is I got to tell him what we're giving away. So, at the office in a safe, tucked away, I have this hat. Where is it? This hat, the Software That Works hat, that is signed by Dr. Karp. Signed by Dr. Karp. And so what we're going to do, because I'm not dealing with this like the scandal again that always happens, is that whoever I see comment first on my feed is the person who wins, because I only have one hat, and that's the one that we're giving away. So
I'm just gonna let you know, you might see someone and you might see someone else, and you're gonna be compelled to you really gotta, as soon as you see them, just ignore everything else, because then you feel bad. I feel bad every time. So
it's whoever comes up first on my feed. I'm looking at the feed, and so whatever comes up first is the one that we're going with. And honestly, it's a pretty hard question, so I don't anticipate having too much.
Okay, so the answer, is it one word? Is it a sentence? What should people be thinking of?
It's 2 words. It's a name, right? And so I'll ask the question, and it's a name, and they have to type it in the chat. Okay.
All right, here we go.
Which congressman did Dr. Karp appear on stage with at the 2021 Reagan National Defense Forum? Which
boy.
Did Dr. Karp appear on stage with at the 2021 Reagan National Defense Forum?
Here we go. Whatever you see.
Wrong.
See.
Getting further and further away.
Was it Joe Biden? Are you kidding me?
Which congressman? There it is. Drew Nation got it.
Drew Nation.
Okay, he misspelled it, but he got it though. I'll give it to him.
Drew Nation. You missed one letter.
It's fine. We'll give it to him. Drew Nation gets it. Drew Nation gets
Mike Gallagher.
Yeah.
There you go. Drew Nation, now working at Palantir.
Yes. Drew Nation was the first one that got it. So Drew Nation will get.
So Drew Nation hit up. So first of all,
have Drew Nation message you.
Okay,
the details.
Yeah, message me on Twitter and DM me, and I'll get your stuff to Eliano. But you just won a signed 1-of-1 Alex Karp hat. Or Palantir hat signed by
Mike Gallagher.
Drew, have you? Is he? I think Drew's a channel member. I think Drew's been watching for a while. So shout out to you, Drew. I think I've seen your name plenty of times in the chat. So happy you got to win it. There we go. He's excited. Dude, this has been fun. This has been a crazy journey. This has been wild. I can only imagine what it's like inside of the company, seeing you guys flip the world upside down in the past couple of years. And you guys are doing the damn thing. Can you give us a little insight on do you have any insight on how Karp feels about all this stuff? And
I mean, you're the one you saw him. You saw him in AIPCon. Why are you asking me?
I'm just saying in general. Can you tell us how he's
I won't speak for Dr. Karp. I'll speak for just like my sort of anecdotal experiences within the company in the last couple of weeks. But there's momentum and there's confidence, and I think that there's a hunger to capitalize on it, right? And there's an intensity, and so like ever since the S&P thing, like I've been just reinvigorated. Not that I was losing motivation, but I just feel even more motivation to go out there and just keep like winning. it's like almost like the work that we've done has been rewarded, and now we're just hungry for the next thing. So I'm really excited about it. And I think a lot of folks feel the same way. There's just a lot of inbound. There's a lot more attention now, positive and negative, but I think there's a lot for us to capitalize on. So everyone's just still working hard, man. It's a great time to be at Palantir. I feel really fortunate to be a part of it, to play some small role in it. And, I just really, thank the Lord that, I get an opportunity to work for my favorite company in the world. And it's just awesome.
It's exciting. It's super fun covering it. I'm so appreciative to you giving me these opportunities and reinvigorating the merch store, because it keeps the community alive and it keeps the community repping some of our favorite items.
And look, I want folks to go out there and proudly wear their Palantir merch and talk about Palantir, right? Like talk about Palantir, why Palantir is special. And everyone has their own story. Everyone has their own Palantir story. I have my own Palantir story. You have your own Palantir story. We talk about Palantir all the time. I have people that I saw at a wedding 2 years ago being like, you were right about Palantir. They're like, they thought that I was crazy. I remember I used to like go in DC and go to events and be like, hey, you guys should come by and learn about Palantir. They'd be like, who the hell is this guy? He just keeps talking about Palantir, this weirdo. Right. And now it's like, hey, can we come by and see what's up? And I'm like, sure. So it's really great, but the work's just getting started. So
we got one comment right here to end it off by Casey. I work for a public company that was hated, and I understand what it feels like to be on the opposite side of what Palantir is feeling right now. Palantirians must be on top of the world. Yep.
Casey, thank you for sharing your experience, and I hope you just know that we don't hate you.
I love it. Store.palantir.com. Check out the merch. If you are not following Eliano on Twitter and you care about Palantir, you're following me on Twitter, you need to be following him on Twitter.
Yeah. So Brendan Jackson with the Mike Jones. Yes. I love it.
There he is.
I love it.
Yep. There you go.
Houston, Texas. Let's go. All right. Peace out.
Eliano, thank you. Appreciate you. Catch you later.
Appreciate you more. All right, man.
Yep.
Take care.
Bye. Funnily enough, what he talked about being in DC and people bringing up like Palantir 2 years ago. I didn't tell you guys the story, but when I got back from AFPCon on Saturday, and again, shout out to Eliano. Please make sure to follow him on Twitter. Just like such a good guy. And dude, he's the reason I'm getting to all these events and stuff. So eternally grateful for him. And he reached out when he saw this community was organic and, wanted to get me involved. So really appreciate Eliano. On Saturday, my neighborhood had a little bit of a block party. And in the block party, I was dead tired because I came home Friday night. And so my mom just asked me to like show up for a little bit just to say hi to some of the neighbors. And so I showed up and I'm just sitting. I was talking to these two gentlemen who were like 17 years old. And, they were interested in finance and AI and stuff. So we just started, hitting it off, started talking about their expectations for college, all this stuff. I was kind of felt like the older guy in the room at 26 talking to the 17-year-olds. But then this like 50-year-old guy walks up to me and he's like, "Are you Amit?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he was like, "I've seen your Palantir videos." And I was like, "What, dude? This guy lives like 5 houses away from me. Like, how is this happening right now?" It's the first time I got recognized in public, like in that vicinity. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I've been watching the stream. I've been watching for, a couple years now." And he was like, "Someone sent me your stream in the WhatsApp." And I was like, "I think this is my neighbor." And it was just hilarious. And I was like, "Okay, so did you buy Palantir?" He's like, "No, I never bought Palantir." I was like, "How are you watching me? And you've never even, bought a little bit," but he's like mainly index fund and all that stuff. But then at that moment, I showed him the carp video because he's not on Twitter. So I showed him the carp, the fuck yeah video. And I was curious to see what his raw reaction is. Because again, some people were just like, "Oh, that's cringe. Why is the CEO saying that?" The majority of people were like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, that's awesome." And I showed him that video. This is the first time I'm like getting a look at how a stranger thinks of this video. And as soon as Carp said, "Fuck yeah," dude, he loved it. He was like, "That is so epic." Like he was so excited to see that video kind of take place and see, because he knows Carp. He's obviously seen Carp many times. He just never ended up investing in Palantir, but he knows who Carp is. And when he saw that video, he was super excited about it. So it's pretty cool because speaking to Eliano's point right here, Palantir at 3670, up about 0.5%. Eliano's getting recognized now from people in the DC area that are more excited about Palantir. And, quite literally in my neighborhood, I'm getting recognized by people that have found me because of Palantir on YouTube. And know who Dr. Karp is. I mean, like, dude, 3 years ago, if I showed him that video, he would be like, this is just some random crazy guy saying, fuck yeah. Like Karp's image is becoming more universal, which matters for investors because you want your CEO being able to have brand awareness and say something and people give a fuck. And eventually, that leads to I would think, increase of the overall value of the company because the CEO is driving that value creation. So we got Robinhood back here at 22.72, up about 0.38% of the day. So I think the brand awareness is going higher, and the merch store is just another step of continuing to get that to go higher. I don't care that he didn't buy. I mean, I don't care if he didn't buy Palantir. I didn't have any beef with that. I was just curious. I was like, because he's been watching the videos. I'm like, oh, so did you buy a little bit of Palantir at all? He was like, no. But I understand also. I think he's more index fund, mutual fund type of investor. You guys, a lot of people don't take risks with individual stocks. A lot of people are very unique in the YouTube finance community, in this chat, taking risks with stocks. I mean, most people play it pretty safe. By the way, Bobby G, thank you for the $10 super chat. I love that name, Bobby G. Such a great name. Thank you for the super chat, dude. Really appreciate it. Most people don't do that. Most people put a lot of money into the index and just like chill out, and then they play with it a little bit. Very few people actually have 80 to 75% of their portfolios managed by themselves, self-directed into individual equities. So it doesn't surprise me that he's not an individual stock guy because most people in the world aren't. But obviously, there's a lot more alpha in a year, if you pick the right stocks. Amid more pages are exploding today. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. That tweet by Sham was wild, bro. Like, again, Sham doesn't tweet like that. So when I saw that today, I was just like, he really doesn't care. It makes me think, hey, did Palantir play a role in this? Like, it'd be kind of crazy. Wall Street Journal just put out an article about the pager stuff, and they said it is absolutely Israeli intelligence that got to them. The question is what powered the Israeli intelligence to be able to ultimately make that happen. All right, let's get some more rate cut analysis. We've got former Fed vice chair on what the Fed should do. Let's get his take. We've got about 3 hours left. We'll probably end the stream in about 20 minutes, and then I'll be back at 1:50, and then we'll figure out what Jay Powell decides to do.
Now is former Fed Vice Chairman Rich Clarida. He served as Assistant Treasury Secretary in the George W. Bush administration. He is now Global Economic Advisor at PIMCO. And Rich, thank you for
being with us. Glad to be here. Yeah.
So Rick said a little while ago he's glad he's not in the Fed today, having to make this decision in the FOMC. What about you?
Well, what I'll say is I think it is a close call. The PIMCO calls a close call, 25, 50, 75, or 100 for the rest of the year. I think the big picture, though, Becky, is the Powell Fed thinks that rates are restrictive. They want to do everything they can to support maximum employment. And so they're going to be projecting and talking about a lot of rate cuts over the next 12 months. Whether or not they ratify market pricing, which is very aggressive, is to be seen. But we're sticking with our call of 25 today, really based upon the post-Jackson Hole macro data, which, as you pointed out today, has been pretty strong, and commentary from Fed officials before the blackout.
Yeah, I mean, that to me would be, the idea if you're going to go 50 basis points, that usually happens when there is some sort of an emergency or we feel like we're really behind the curve. The data doesn't really back that up.
Well, what history tells us that story. The last two times the Fed cut 50 for the first cut was in 2000 before what became 2001 before what became a brief recession, and September of 07, and we know how that ended up. So yeah, typically when the first move is 25, it's not been right in front of a downturn.
Right. Where do you think the economy really is headed? How do you what are your directional pointings?
Well, the direction is that it has been very resilient for now going on 2 years. I mean, Atlanta Fed keeps revising up its GDP tracker. We do think eventually that the economy does drift down towards trend growth around 2%, maybe a bit less. I remind you, we've had a lot of good news on inflation in the last 3 or 4 months, but on a year-over-year basis, the Fed will probably project today inflation running at 2.8 or 2.9, and so there's still a ways to go on disinflation.
Yeah, that's a long way to go from 2%.
Yeah.
We've heard others like Jamie Dimon bring up the idea that if you think this inflation issue is cured, you should maybe take a few steps back. It sounds like you're echoing some of those concerns.
Sure, the progress has been remarkable, and certainly I think it does make sense to begin.
Meet Kevin just said there was a bomb at a Trump rally. Hold on. Let's see if that's happening. Holy shit. Car with bomb found inside the perimeter. This came out 3 minutes ago for Trump's rally on Long Island tonight. This is the rally. Police find explosives in the car. This came out 50. Oh, I'm not even sharing the screen. I'm sorry. I'm not sharing the screen. Police find explosives in car near Donald Trump's rally site on Long Island where he's speaking this evening. Lalino reports that the rally site perimeter was breached and a blue barrel was removed. The Nassau County Police Department reportedly said that during a sweep, they found an explosive device in one of the vehicles. No one saw if he had anything on him. They just saw him take off running. A lot of cars are now parking. They're lining up Hempstead Turnpike, just parking on the grass. These are people leaving the event, I think, in this video. Holy shit, dude. This is... Goodness gracious. I think we're going to get more details on this, but they are trying to take this guy out, dude. I don't think anyone can deny. If this is legit true and there's a random car with explosives in the rally, they are legit trying to kill this guy. Can we get more coverage on this? Let's see. What else do we have? See, this is where Twitter gets really useful. This is when you get real-time updates, right? And so this is where a lot of the value comes from Twitter. But we got to see if we're getting any real-time updates. Yeah, this came out literally 10:40 today. It's 10:52. Police found explosives in the car near President Donald Trump's rally on Long Island. He has a speech on this evening. I didn't know he was even in Long Island this weekend. In addition, during the canine sweep, they apparently found an explosive device in one of the vehicles. The sources allegedly said the driver ended up running into the woods after the car was looked at. Let me see if there's any coverage on this on TV. Wow, dude, that is kind of insane, bro. Is there any coverage on this right now? No one's covering yet. This is like literally just broke. I would imagine it would take TV maybe 20 minutes to get some coverage here. And that's why Twitter is a lot quicker to get these updates. Yeah, that's what we have right now. Daily Mail broke this news. Cops find explosives in car near Trump rally on Long Island after second assassination attempt. That's wild, man. This is just absolutely wild. Obviously, you don't wish violence on anyone. This is not a third world country where political violence should become the norm. Like that's not what we should be seeing. We need to see if this suspect was also in a Blackrock commercial. The first two assassins were. The second guy was also in a Blackrock commercial? I know the first guy was. Ryan Ruth was in a Blackrock commercial? Really? Holy crap. That is a hell of a coincidence. Okay, I'm seeing a couple sources say he wasn't in a Blackrock commercial. Some people saying he was. Dude, that's wild. It's ridiculous. That's just insanity. Oh my God. Yeah, P. Diddy also was arrested a couple days ago on sex trafficking. We all kind of knew that was going to happen, though. Like, we all knew that was going to happen. That was just a matter of time. That is, those Hollywood parties, dude. I know when everyone's, in their teenage years, in their early 20s, they're like, how cool would it be to be at these Hollywood parties? I don't think anyone, as they get older, wants to be in parties in Hollywood by anyone influential in Hollywood, because all that shit is the weirdest shit on the planet. And so Diddy, we'll see what happens with the court case, but it seems like there's a lot of evidence that he was conducting a lot of those weird parties. This is insane, bro. I'm trying to see if we can get some coverage on this. Okay, so CNN, let's get some coverage on CNN. They're not talking about the Trump thing. They're talking about the new pagers that just went off. So right when this Trump news broke, we did have more pagers go off. So let's get a little bit of coverage on this. And then I'll try to find some more Trump stuff as well.
Lebanon's premier medical facility. But certainly this puts a new spin on this story, which yesterday really left people in shock. And today, with a second wave of blasts, it really is making people feel that any sort of device, like your mobile phone, could be a danger as well, Jim.
Yeah, Ben, the latest that we're getting, as you were just saying, the devices that detonated in this new wave of explosions were walkie-talkies. I know, Ben, you'll continue to gather information on this, but just extraordinary. One day after that remarkable turn of events yesterday where the pagers were exploding. All right, Ben Wiedemann, thank you very much. We appreciate the reporting as always. And thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm Jim Acosta. Our next.
Let's see in 2 minutes if they start their new hour of coverage with this Trump stuff. And if we can get some updates on that. Does Fox have any Trump stuff? Fox does not have any Trump stuff yet. Let's see if they get there. Palantir, by the way, is up. Markets are up a little bit still. Palantir 36.69, Dell's at 118, Meta's at 538, S&P is relatively flat on the day. Apple, wow, 2%. Holy crap, this thing was 215 yesterday. So people said, you know what? Upgrade cycle's on the way. They bought in. Newsweek has it. Do I have Newsweek on YouTube TV? Let me see. Do I have Newsweek? I don't know. Let me search. I think I should have Newsweek. Is that News Nation? Is that what it's called? News Nation. No, I don't have it. I don't have it. Let's see what else I can get. Let's see. So markets are doing okay right now, but this is pretty crazy news. Are they starting off? No, not on CNN. Not on. Oh, no, I do have News Nation. I do have it. Is Newsweek on News Nation? They're in commercial break right now, but I have it. Let's go back to CNBC real quick. They're not talking about it either. They were just talking about Trump, but they were talking about something else with Trump. They were talking about Trump's new tax proposal. I don't think they have the other news. We'll look at that real quick while I'm trying to get the other updates, but maybe they'll start off coverage with the bomb attempt.
It is the latest tax break that he's announced on the campaign trail, on top of the $4 trillion in effective tax cuts that he's promised as part of extending the individual provisions of the 2017 tax cuts. Now, so far, he wants to end taxes on tips, end taxes on Social Security, and overtime pay. Those add up to an additional $2 trillion in lost revenue. If he ended SALT, that would be, of course, removing that $10,000 cap on state and local tax deductions. That would add another $1.2 trillion to the cost of extending those cuts. Most of the benefits, though, would go to the highest earners in high tax states. In fact, 2/3 of the benefits of repealing the SALT cap would go to the top 1% of earners. Now, Trump campaign not commenting on exactly what changes he would make to SALT beyond that quick statement. The rally he was at yesterday was in Nassau County in Long Island. Nearly half of all tax filers there had their state and local tax deductions capped. So really speaking to the crowd there, Carl, as he has done throughout, and it's going to be a question of whether Congress would ever take this up because there's opposition on both sides.
Yeah, although there is support too amongst a lot of Democratic congressmen to a certain extent in these blue states, to be fair as well. Somewhat surprising, given this was one of the only key revenue raisers in the 2017 bill.
Yeah, and that's why it's been hard. Even when the Democrats had control and wanted to oppose it, wanted to repeal it, they couldn't do it. So it's going to be a tough sled.
He's going to have to raise a lot from the tariffs to offset some of these tax breaks.
They are adding up, aren't they? Tips. So,
I mean, look, that's a fair point that if they get rid of the SALT tax or they cut more taxes on these different areas, they're going to have to find this revenue from somewhere. Right now, I think both politicians, Trump and Kamala, are just promising dreams. And, you know, it's going to be a different reality when they get into office. But they're doing whatever they can say to get people excited. And, you know, eventually we'll see what ends up becoming real. No one's covering the bomb stuff, guys. No one's covering it. Fox isn't covering it. CNN's not covering it. News Nation's not covering it. Well, News Nation's covering the pager stuff. We'll go back to that in a little. We'll pull that up, but no one's covering the bomb stuff outside of Twitter.
This, as we know, one of the explosions happened at a funeral organized by Hezbollah in response to those pagers exploding yesterday. We want to show you the new video that has come into News Nation showing this. This is the pagers that exploded yesterday. Again, the timing of this obviously very notable. This is the new video we're seeing right here of this happening at a funeral organized for people who died with the pagers exploding. We can see
they exploded pagers at the funeral for the people that died from the pagers. That is wild.
Smoke in the air here, the crowds that were gathered. So today, the updates we are following at this hour, these are handheld radios used by Hezbollah that were detonated in multiple areas across Lebanon. Like I said, the timing of this, very notable. 12 people dying and thousands of people being injured in the pager explosions that happened on Tuesday in areas of Lebanon. So still unknown how many injuries or deaths potentially could be tied back to all this. But this just shows sort of the surprising moments of this conflict right now that are happening. Israel still hasn't commented on the pager explosions that have happened, Marnie. But again, the timing of this somewhat suspicious, if you will, and rather notable considering this comes a day after those pager explosions that happened in areas like supermarkets and claimed the lives of at least a dozen people. I think it was around 3,000 people who were injured in all that. But again, very big concerns about this war widening even more right now in the Middle East. In fact, earlier this morning, we saw Hezbollah carry out some rocket strikes on artillery areas used by Israel. So again, very big concerns about this war widening even more in the Middle East. And earlier this morning, Secretary of State for the United States, Antony Blinken, saying the focus must be on finding a ceasefire and stopping this war from widening even more, especially after those pager explosions and now these handheld radios exploding in parts of Lebanon today, Marty.
Powder keg situation. All right, Tom, thank you. We'll have you join us once again as you continue to monitor that situation. I'd like to join now retired U.S. Army Major General William Enyart on the phone. Help us understand the tensions between Israel and Hezbollah right now as we all think back to October 7th and Hamas's involvement. What is precipitating this event and how deep do these tensions in history go between Israel and Hezbollah?
Good morning, Marnie. It's great to be with you. Asking a question like that, how much time have you got? We could go back to the Old Testament, frankly, to talk about the tensions in the Middle East and the warfare that's gone on there for centuries. But to bring it up to modernity, you have the axis here between Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and so Iran, of course, has funded and armed these militias and has some control in varying degrees over them. What is particularly interesting about the events with the pagers, I thought, and which really hasn't gotten a whole lot of attention, is the fact that the Iranian ambassador in Lebanon had one of them and was injured in the explosion. So let's ask ourselves, why was the Iranian ambassador carrying a Hezbollah pager? Clearly that shows the interlinkages between Iran and Hezbollah. The fact that Israel was, and we have to presume, looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's more than likely a duck. So certainly this was put together by Israel, the Israeli intelligence services. And
Israel has not confirmed or denied that yet, but it seems obvious it was Israel.
It shows the reach of the Israeli intelligence services in being able to penetrate whether it was the supply chain or whether it was the manufacturing process. It looks like somewhere in Hungary, a third party out from the Taiwan owner of the patents on these pagers, but clearly the reach of the Israelis here is phenomenal. One thing I think that helps Israel here internationally is that this is a relatively targeted strike. The people who are carrying these, although there are certainly some civilians and some children who were injured and killed in these incidents, but they're largely targeted directly towards the Hamas mid and upper leadership. As opposed to dropping a 500-pound bomb on a school because there's a Hamas person hiding underneath the school. So it does restrict the civilian casualties greatly.
But it does beg the question, what's next, right? What is the next plan? I want to ask you real quickly, do you expect from the U.S. response to this, and how does it influence the hostage negotiations and the current conflict and hope for a ceasefire?
The U.S. response, I think, will continue to be the measured, relatively measured response that we've shown all along. We have not restricted particularly weapons sales or transfers to Israel. We did put a pause on 2,000-pound bombs. And frankly, dropping a 2,000-pound bomb in Gaza is simply overkill. Gaza is about the size of Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's not a large area. And so when you start dropping big, heavy bombs in there, you're going to have civilian casualties. You're going to, you almost by definition are going to be violating international law in terms of proportionality. So I think what the U.S. though is going to continue to do is continue to work with Egypt and with Qatar in an attempt to bring these folks to the table. Problem is, does anybody want to be brought to the table? You get Netanyahu up to the table, or you get Sinwar, the Hamas leader, up to the table, and they skitter back because saying no, they need something more in the settlement. So I think we're going to continue to see retaliation for retaliation in an ongoing process. I think the only hope here is to keep it from turning into a widespread conflagration involving the entire Middle East. And that's the ultimate goal of the U.S.
Indeed.
So what's really interesting about this, and we'll end the stream here in about 5 minutes, is some of you guys are saying, could our phones explode as well? Based on what the general just said, it seems like this was not just like them hacking the software of the pager to explode. That was part of it, but it seems like they got into the supply chain of the creation of the pager, got a bomb into that pager based on what he said. This could be right, this could be wrong, and somehow made sure those pagers were distributed to the people that was then controlled by software in Israel, where they could touch a button theoretically and it could blow up, which is just like, I mean, I don't think that could happen to our phones, but I also don't know. And so it's like, goodness gracious, that is insane. And it seems like more went off today at the funeral that they were having. So Israel is going for it right here. And it seems like there was a lot of complex technology and things that had to get put together to be able to end up making this happen. The Trump news that just broke, still don't have any coverage on it, guys, but apparently it seems like there was someone who had a bomb or explosives inside of a car at the Trump rally. And the goal was to, no one's still talking about it yet. The goal was to potentially hurt some of the Trump supporters. Not, all of them are still talking about Lebanon. Trump supporters, not just Trump himself, because it was, he's not speaking until tonight. So the idea was to leave that car there and for Trump people that were getting ready for the rally to end up getting hurt by that. So thankfully, it seems like the police found that and they were able to get rid of it. But that just broke 20 minutes ago. And then finally, FOMC. Guys, the odds just went closer to 50-50. I mean, now we're still away from 50-50 at 59-41, but it was at 65-35 this morning. And so let's refresh it again. Let's see if it changed. Now it's back to 61-39. All right, so I don't think the market knows what the hell is going to happen. I think the market has no idea. It's leaning towards 50 on the futures for the probabilities, but we have no clue. We're going to see what happens in a couple hours. All right, 150. I'll be back. 2 o'clock. We get the decision. We'll be covering it until Jay Powell speaks at 2:30. And then 2:30 to basically we'll be live today from 1:50 to call it 5 o'clock. So it'll be a very long stream. We're going to see how this happens, see how the market interprets it, and figure out if the market is bullish or bearish on 25 or 50. So there you go. All right, everybody. I'll see you guys in a couple hours. Get some food. Get ready. Big day with FOMC. And I'll see you guys at 1:50 Eastern Standard. Bye, everyone. Have a good one. See you in a bit.